This is Special Agent Henrik Impola, Special Agent Jayson Chambers, and Special Agent Corey Baumgardner. It's December 10th. Time is approximately 10 o'clock. Initiating a primary and backup recording device prior to a recorded interview with subject Steve Robeson.
Let me know when you want it back.
How you doing?
Hey,
Steve, I'm Hank.
How's it going?
Nice to meet you.
How's it going?
Good to see you. Appreciate your time, man.
Thanks for coming in.
I'll be right back.
Where you want me?
Have a seat.
Yeah.
So, what do you like to be called?
Steve.
Steve? All right, I've heard Roby. We've heard Steve from Wisconsin. Stevie Wonder.
Wisconsin. Yeah, you know.
So nice to finally meet you.
We had coffee here. If you're interested.
I might have a coffee.
There's some of it's 2 of them are cream, 2 of them are black.
Which one's cream?
The one with the stickers on them are cream.
This is a cream.
No sugar.
Black.
Right?
Yeah, no sugar. There's another cream, and this is a. All right, I'm grabbing one too.
Yeah.
And donuts. I mean, cops can't sit here and watch donuts. I've been eyeing these things for a while.
I'm good.
All right.
Oh my.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah, imagine that concept.
So, I don't know what your thoughts were coming in here, or what you were told. Our thought, I'll tell you, I guess, where we're at, who we are, and I guess what our intentions were. So the way it works in the FBI is every time you have a case, it's the responsibility of that. We call it AOR, Area of Responsibility. So like on Croft, Baltimore's got a case which covers the Delaware office for the FBI, and they're responsible for Croft, right? We're from Michigan. We're from the Flint area, and then we are the owners of the Wolverine Watchman case, the Whitmer case.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit weird because normally the way the Bureau does it is one case, one threat. So Croft, the job of the agents in Baltimore would be to make sure nobody gets hurt, right? Disrupt and dismantle any threats associated with any violence associated with Croft, right? In Michigan, there's individual cases for all of the individual watchmen, right? And it's those agents' jobs. So for us, we're responsible for what we call the terrorism enterprise case over all the watchmen. So
while individual agents have been investigating specific people, Hank and I have been the guys looking at the whole thing. Yeah.
So we're responsible for kind of disrupt and dismantle any violence associated with the Watchman enterprise. So then what happened is, like, once Luther happened and kind of some of these threats started to consolidate,
Become real threat cons.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then it all kind of consolidated under the Watchman case with a more specific target. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And kind of to that point too, some of the criminal activity that could be charged federally was actually occurring physically in Michigan.
It wasn't just talk anymore.
It wasn't just talk, and it wasn't even though like Croft is from Delaware, the criminal activity is happening in Michigan. That now makes it our responsibility, right? And so the prosecutors in Michigan are going to be the ones that are handling that situation, not necessarily the ones out in Delaware.
So then once, law enforcement, once we decided that, like, hey, we don't want anybody to get hurt, we have to step in, the venue became the Western District of Michigan for the federal charges. And so there's, certain federal laws, certain state laws. So the state AG picked up some cases, the Western District of Michigan, which is federal, picked up other cases, and then once you're kind of in the federal court system, then you're going through, or the state court system, you're going through all the legal process, right? You have arraignments, you have, and then everybody's posturing, right? It's a big game. People want to, who's going to flip, who's going to cooperate, are we going to have suppression hearings, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where, like, right now, today, we're in charge of basically being the liaisons and prosecution and like making sure the right things happen for anybody who gets arrested for the group. So we're kind of like right now today, like we're in court mode, right? Like we're in, how do we protect people? What are we going to do? Who should get punished? How should that happen? Stuff like that.
Yeah, and there's legal, we have legal responsibilities to make sure that the defense attorneys get the materials that they are
Entitled to.
legally supposed to have. So there are. I don't want to say it's outside of our control, but these are rules, these are laws that are.
I get that.
Once it's all downrange, man.
We had a discussion about this when it all started.
Yeah.
My name will not still never be in it. It'll be Pacific, correct?
Well, that's what we want to talk about.
These are things that we got to discuss, right?
Because that's what I was told on tape. So.
Sure. But there's a couple different scenarios where we don't control everything anymore.
So let's dive into them. Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the way we look at it now, when we came in, we didn't know anything about you, right? We heard I was in Wisconsin for the FDX from Michigan, doing surveillance on the Michigan guys.
Yep.
I heard, Steve from Wisconsin. You're Stevie Wonder. So, but we don't know anything that you've been told, right? We've read some reports, and what we've done, out of respect for other field offices, is we've specifically left your name out of it, right? We haven't referred to you as a source. We've had to refer to you as something, right? Individual from Wisconsin, right?
Yeah.
Which
I've seen all the court proceedings.
okay.
Sure.
So here's basically the three options, and this is where we need to work it out. Three of us in this room. The first option, which is what you're talking about, is basically the home run for everybody. So in that option, right, you're not referred to, you're not a witness, there's no paperwork that's part of you, that goes into the defense team or into it's not used in the prosecution. And then what happens, which is already happening right now, is people start flipping. The main subjects testify. Yeah. And then so all of a sudden, right, there's no heat on you because everybody's flipping.
They're doing
Yeah.
everybody's job for them.
Once people start flipping and cooperating, now the drama is no longer who was helping out the government, it's who's blaming who on what happened. In the court proceedings, right?
And they're shooting at each other.
Is that everybody's pointing the fingers the other direction, right?
So that, I think we can all agree that's the home run, right? That's the goal.
And some of that is
Already taking place.
yeah.
Right. So the other two options, though, which is really the purpose of us being here, right, is the other one is, the second option is the prosecutors say, hey, this is a huge case, right? We didn't realize it was going to be this big. It's blown up. It's got many legs. We didn't realize it was going to be so multi-state. We just thought it was going to be the Wolverine Watchman. Steve Robeson has a ton of great evidence, and we, as the United States government, can't leave that on the table and chance that, right? We know that you're not supposed to, we know that he didn't want to testify. We know that they were trying to make attempts, but too bad, right? That's an option that the U.S. attorneys can come with. I'm not saying it's an option we want, but I guess the way I feel, and
some of that is also dependent on the defense, too. So some of these defense might make outlandish claims and statements that the prosecution ends up deciding, man, the best way to just handle that is for Steve to come talk about it, right? These are things that we can't control.
Now, that's where, at the end of the day, you don't like that option, I'm sure.
Listen, this is where I'm at. I hate retarded people. I'm a felon, so I'm already having to watch my P's and Q's more than most people because I was a retard myself for a lot of years. So with that being said, I hate people when we're trying to do something and have a good thing on both sides of the aisle where law enforcement and other people are concerned, and we're just trying to basically look out for zombie land. That we know we hope never happens. But then you got people coming up like this whole shit and making it dangerous for not just us but for you guys and for people. So I have no problem defending what I say I believe in. I'm not scared of none of these pieces of shit. If you want to know my true opinion, I'm just not.
Okay.
But I have a family.
Yeah.
And I was completely 100% assured if this had to go, these other options, that would be something that relocate and some other things would be absolutely happening.
Okay.
I mean, we have a really nice life. My wife's got a good job. We've got a nice property. But again, I have no problem standing on what's right and what's wrong.
Sure.
But that is my priority above that.
Sure.
And that should be, right? We wouldn't expect to hear anything different, right? So for us, that's a pretty standard conversation when people are involved in things as far as how do we keep them safe, and we expect to have that conversation.
I mean, I catch a lot of heat now because some people, because Barry Croft went in right away and said, an FBI agent told me, and he said this on a recorded line that Jill he was into his girlfriend, whatever her name is, Chastity. Steve's the one who threw me under the bus. That an agent told him that. He said it on a recorded line.
Okay.
So that wasn't okay with me to start. That started putting a sour taste in my freaking mouth, if you want to know the truth. But, you know.
Well, let's talk about that, okay? So
Shit happens.
we're going to talk about that. So we know a lot about that and how that came to be. And I'll tell you what, it wasn't an FBI agent. But we do know what happened. I mean, we do know a meeting of the minds that you weren't part of where they decided that you were a guy, right? So, they're going to, the group, and when I say the group, I'm talking about a bunch of these guys right here, right? This is what we want to talk about. A bunch of those guys decided on their own how to deal with you, right? And they're making decisions, and they're lying to you, and they're trying to test you, right?
Yeah.
And
Amanda did on the phone, too. I don't know if you know that.
We did know Amanda, yeah.
Well, I mean,
we'd like to get some specifics. We don't know. We know of her doing a lot online.
Well, she said that Adam and her weren't just talking anymore because of whatever, blah, 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 which I thought was bullshit to start with. And that they know that it says in the thing that I'm the individual, and that they know, and then she told me, she goes, because I gave them information too on my phone and talking about some emails or conversations or something she had on her phone.
Amanda said that.
Yeah.
Okay.
She said that she gave information to the Bureau.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which she had no reason to put herself out there like that.
Right.
I mean, she's like, but she thought that information that she had proved that I was the informant. And then she read it and she goes, "Oh my God, you're not the guy." And
Right.
I'm like, "Well, whatever, that's cool, So she and then she said point blank something like, "Do you think worse of me or not?" I'm like, "Look, dude, you got a kid. If he put you in that position, that's on him. If that's why you cooperated, that's why you cooperated." So me and her had this conversation, but I still think she was fishing.
Yeah.
And
She definitely was.
She was fishing for Adam.
Yep.
So,
And I don't know. Yeah. So the question becomes, right, which is why we need to have this talk. And I mean, look, maybe we should have had this talk 6 months ago. But at the end of the day, you can't trust anyone, whether it's Amanda, whether it's coming from the Croft camp. Security is an issue, right? Like, we can't sit here in front of you and say we're not. You need to be safe. Your family needs to be safe. Everybody, like, no violence is the key, right? So that's the number one priority. To us, the first. And I've worked through this with other cases in the past, right? Like, we've relocated people, sure. There's witness protection, sure. That's horrible. I mean, you don't want that. At the end of the day, the first priority for safety is making sure everybody involved goes to jail, right? Nobody walks, right? That's the number one thing. And the number two thing, and this is the benefit you have, is your information was specifically withheld from any probable cause. So right now, you're not relied on for anything, right?
well, that's kind of cool. I mean, in both ways for y'all too, because some real power punchers have reached out to me since then, and said that, that I've met in different places, and they're like, dude, we know you're not part of that, dude. We need to get some stuff going, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but a lot of them don't know about all this crap going on or the ties to it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but I'm just saying, some different people from.
We definitely need to get into that.
Yeah. We need to talk about option 3, though.
Yep. So we've told you option 2, which is, I think, not ideal, but at the end of the day, we want to be upfront with you, because I'd want to hear it if I was going to be pressed with option 2. Option 3 is probably the least ideal one for all of us, which is basically where the defense calls you, right? So what we have, and as a constitutionalist yourself...
Which I'm sure they're going to do.
Right. Well, and that's where we get into a little bit of gamesmanship right here, right? Decision making is if the defense calls you, right, that puts you in a unique spot. It puts us in a unique spot, right? And so these guys, and just so you understand, you've got a Fifth Amendment right to a fair trial.
Absolutely.
And a right
Not
to face...
Not to incriminate myself.
Right. Well, and I'm talking about these guys. A right to face their accusers.
Correct.
And a right to see what the government has. Like, we have to produce all discovery, right? So just so you understand, when everything we've collected, the defense gets, right? Then we take a small bit and we narrow it down. This is what we're going to use, right? Like, we may have recordings from you.
But you don't have to use it, and if you don't use it, you don't have to disclose it.
Well, we do have to disclose it, right? That's where I think people have the... So the defense has to get everything we have, right? We have to disclose that we have it, and then they get the opportunity to use it if they want. Like, if they view it as exculpatory or whatever, right? Now, we're not going to feed it to them. We're not going to say, like, oh, look here, you might want to use, Robeson's recording.
Well, how does it have, does it still, until they requested it for that, how does it go from Pacific, which is what I was told, would be used even at a court hearing?
Well, it's because they know your real name.
They don't know my real name.
What do they know? How do they know you?
Roby.
Okay, well, that's how they're going to know you, right? That's like, we can't control them calling you Roby.
But I'm saying, how does Pacific even go to Roby, though? Because I was, what I was explaining, and this is, I've got my recording out there too, is that if it ever had to go to court, I would appear in court as Pacific.
That's under, if we're in option 2 land for the prosecution.
Okay.
If the defense listens to that recording, and, say it's Adam Fox, just for...
Let me get this straight. Pacific is your code name. Okay.
Yeah. So if Adam Fox and their defense team is listening to materials and stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, that's Steve Roby. That's how they know you, right? Steve Roby. Yeah. He tells his lawyers, that's Steve Roby. They don't care about the name.
But I'm saying, but during that recording, it doesn't mean that I'm the one making the recording.
Correct. No,
Correct.
It could be something. It could be a completely different recording.
It could be anybody on this list. Could be Kawasaki. Could be Jenny. Could be Higgins. Could be Keller making those recordings. Anybody in the room, right?
I just know I'm on the recording.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. So and granted, now we get into the other side of that scope. What if they call me in defense of their defendant?
That's the thing.
And that's the third option, right? So, and that's a very likely thing to happen, right?
Well, especially with Higgins.
Yep.
Because, sidebar, why was Higgins even charged? I know it ain't your decision, but, I mean, I kind of ran that past my handler, for whatever you want to call it, before we ever went.
Okay.
And I said, hey, me and Brian are going to ride with them up there too. I said, do you want us to or not? And he said, well, yeah, just gather whatever intel. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of ran by the guys in Michigan. I don't know if you were there in Luther.
We were in Luther. We monitored the whole thing. We didn't know that. Like, I didn't know who Higgins was. So from our perspective...
He was another individual from Wisconsin.
He was another individual. In fact, we had 4 individuals from Wisconsin, plus you. And then what we told... and clearly this is where communications get messed up, right? So we told your handler and anybody who came that anybody who comes to Luther, Michigan will be testifying in court, and will be part of the prosecution because the night op is already planned, right? You're either being charged or you're testifying as a witness. So that's where the miscommunication comes in, because anybody who shows up you're locked in. Like Luther was the end game,
Yep.
and you're locked in the day you show up. So when the prosecution...
You went on that maneuver.
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
And now...
I know Gary, one of my guys, Gary Landgraf, him and Mike Rogers and his fiancée, they were all there.
Right. Now, they're even showing up makes them potential witnesses, right? They have a potential to be called as witnesses.
That people were there.
Yeah, now both for witnesses for the defense or for the prosecution, right? Now, this is where the gamesmanship comes in.
Yeah.
The prosecution says, you know what? Landgraf or Mike might be pressured to lie. They might be, who knows? They're a liability. Maybe we'll take them as witnesses, right? Like anybody who shows up to the training could be a witness, right? Like so that was the conversation.
For either side.
Don't show up if you're not going to court, right? Clearly, you didn't get that message.
No.
And we did not get the message that who Higgins was or that he was showing up, right? So both
This
of
guy thinks that they're a bunch of retards.
who what he thinks.
They're a bunch of fucking retards up there.
Well,
He goes, dude, these people are stupid. They're going to get everybody in trouble. I don't want nothing to do with them. That was his, And then he's in the jail, and somehow him and his lawyers, whatever. And now he thinks I sold him out.
so
Yeah.
okay, so we're going to go through this a little bit structured. Okay. I want to go through each one, and I want to kind of build a baseline. Everything we'll take notes. We'll go through them.
Okay.
And we'll use those three options, and we'll build towards what we want to do and what our plan is, right? Because there's a lot of moving pieces here we got to consider. So what I want to do, though, is I want to start with a little bit of paperwork and then get a baseline then of who you are, when you started, who your handlers were, what your expectations were coming in, and what you were told, just like you described, because obviously if you have some expectation that I'm not aware of, we're both confused, right? You're confused as to why we're charging Higgins. I'm confused as to why you're confused we're charging Higgins, because I knew if he comes, we're charging him, right? So how it works is, like at this point, we're in court prep mode, right? So basically, we're advocating for the U.S. attorneys, to you on your behalf with the U.S. attorneys.
What are you advocating for me?
So those three options. The option of we shouldn't have him, he should be your witness, or let him be a defense witness, right?
Yeah.
And we're also, from our side, advocating and taking a stance for the government of these are the facts that happened, right? Now, if we understand the facts completely, like what they are, right, we'll take that stance, right? And we can take that stance without your involvement, right? Like, I can stand up and testify that I know this happened for these reasons. I was in Wisconsin. I was in Luther. I had electronic surveillance. I was monitoring everybody. We ran an undercover op. We've got it. I can testify to these facts, right? If the facts are wrong, right, that's a big problem, right? Like, the number one thing is just fact-finding and truthfulness, right? And then, so...
We're now in the position, people are in jails right now, right? So there are legal ramifications to... this
I'm
is
sure this is correctly done.
And this is we have to treat this like an official, kind of proceedings type of conversation, and that's why we've got to do a little paperwork here. That's the point of this.
So we're having a meeting. Is this a meeting with the FBI and Pacific, going over testimony?
No.
So as we understand it, and I'm glad you asked that question. So as I understand it from the Wisconsin guys, that you're officially closed as a confidential informant.
On this,
Yep, on the matter, on everything here. So you're not being actively tasked with anything. And I'm sure there's a lot of decision and discussion that went into that, both from Milwaukee's standpoint and yours. But so technically, right, you're not an informant. we're looking at it from a witness perspective, right?
So now we're looking at this from a witness perspective, that they're going to be, that's going to be able to be available to the defense.
Right.
With my name.
Correct. Now, remind you, regardless of what happens, the defense, regardless of anything we give anybody, right, or anything that happens here, the defense is already preparing and thinking about you as a witness, right? Because Adam Fox knows you, Barry Croft knows you. They've already met and discussed what their plan is with you, and that's outside of anybody's control in this room.
Yeah. So, like, has Barry Croft been to your house?
Correct.
They're going to know you. So, like, defense lawyers, like, they have their own investigators, right? So Barry Croft is able to describe where you live, even if he doesn't have your actual address. If he can just describe where you live, their investigators can independently find who you are.
Yeah, but they don't know that I have a negative input into the investigation.
Here's what they think right now. I'll tell you what everybody on that list thinks. They think you're the star witness, that there's undercovers and informants from Michigan, but that you were held back from the complaint because you're the one we're going to parade up in front as the star witness. They think the undercovers were there to verify things, that the other sources that were in place were kind of sacrificial lambs, and that you're the ace in the hole that we're saving for trial.
They're literally saying the reason why your stuff isn't in those complaints and the stuff that's out there now is because we're saving you for later.
Well, I mean, but Brian wasn't in it. Amanda wasn't in it. Jenny wasn't in it.
I can't tell you why those are arguments, right, to save your, right.
Yeah, I'm just...
Well, you know now, I mean, you're telling us that Amanda was in it, right?
Yeah, because she personally told me.
Yeah. And so...
But the point to the original part of the conversation is, you're concerned about the defense knowing who you are. They already know who you are, man.
Yeah, but they don't know my role.
They know you have a role.
They believe your role is as a star source.
And they think that you're the top guy right now.
And we could try to change their minds, right? We could try to tactically do stuff. Like, our decision-making from the Bureau's side of the standpoint to this point was to not put you in anything to keep you out of it, right? Clearly that backfired, right? In not putting you into anything, because they know you, they believe that we're saving you.
Why wasn't I even arrested in the first place? Because I've seen that happen before. And
well, I'll tell you how, from our perspective, right? And we can get into it a little bit, but from Detroit's perspective, from Flint's perspective, it's all based on your relationship and communication with Wisconsin, right? However you guys want to deal with it and do it is up to you guys. You could have been arrested. We arrested a lot of people, right? It's a common thing. In hindsight, you could look back and say maybe you should have been arrested, right? Hindsight's 20/20. The bottom line is you weren't, and we're right now saying what decisions do we make, moving forward. And I can tell you that, having done this with a lot of sources, we can cloud the water, and it can be we can send everybody into disarray and chaos, where the last thing they're worried about is Steve Robeson. Like, that's a thing, right? It becomes a question of, is it worth it? Do we want to do that, right?
Again, back to option one for a second. Our kind of more ideal scenario is when they start pointing fingers at each other, they don't care about Steve Robeson anymore, right? Those are all things.
All right, so here's the paperwork, and I'm going to let you take a chance to look at all this, right? So I've got a acknowledgement for penalties of false statements to the FBI, right? So that is going to lock you in, like, this is the truth. I've got a consent to look at your cell phone, right? And the reason that is basically it's a trust but verify, right? I can testify that I didn't believe anything he said. I looked at it myself, right? I've got a non-disclosure statement, which basically says don't tell anybody, right? If we reveal information that is for national security purposes, undercovers, prosecution strategy, like, you're locked in, don't tell people. Which means, well, let's go over these individually. And then I've got a consent to look at your Facebook, right? So all of these,
my Facebook's on.
Oh, it is.
Facebook.
Okay, I'll put that one
Like
aside.
3 times.
So take a look at these. Take your time. That first one there is basically says, you could probably call it the Mike Flynn one, but it says don't lie to the FBI. It's a felony. And the important thing, I think, for you to understand is there's lies of commission, meaning like you say something happened and you're thinking to yourself, I want to protect Higgins, right? That, and I'm going to say it, and it actually was different, right? That's the standard lie. The next lie is a lie of omission, right? So you say, like, hey, these guys from Michigan, they don't know this, so I'm not going to bring it up, right? The lie of omission counts as well, and that's part of the reason that our AUSA, and this is a standard thing we do with everybody in witness prep as we're going forward, right? When the AUSAs do not want anybody on the, they don't want something to come out on the stand, some bombshell that they're not aware of.
Common sense.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes what happens is in a long, complicated, drawn-out thing over months with a bunch of different tentacles and stuff, shit happens and people don't know it's important at the time and it never gets asked about, and then all of a sudden it is important later and the ball's been dropped, right? Which is definitely going to be the case in this situation, right? So that's why our goal here is we want to be somewhat structured so we get through everything we need to, and then if there's anything else, like we're relying on you to say, hey, this is important, you know, you don't want this to come back and bite you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
And then the non-disclosure, oh, well, if you're, I guess you're looking at the
Yeah.
one-on-one.
So why is it Thomas Leaguer on that list?
We can add him.
Well, I'll tell you why. There's
Him and Barry were thick as thieves.
well, we didn't know that, but I'll tell you why. We talked about putting more Wisconsin guys on the list. At the end of the day, there's kind of, think about it as boxes. Right now, the box of the threat is encompassed by these guys in Michigan, basically, right? Wisconsin and the Patriot 3%ers and, like, is there a threat? What are they doing? Is basically Corey's box, right? From my perspective and Jayson's, we don't really care about that box, right? Corey can go do his job. Like, yeah, if we can help him, great. But that's his job, right? We had Leaguer in Corey's box, right? If he should be in our box,
Yeah, we can have that conversation.
why don't you add him to the list?
I will.
One,
Thomas Leaguer.
yeah, he's not much involved except with Barry, but and he has had some conversations with Dan and them. But I mean, Dan's one of the big guys.
L-E-E?
L-E.
L-E-A?
Yep.
Isn't it like Ledger?
Yeah.
Leadger?
No, it's Leager, I think.
Okay.
And we'll go with that.
And Steve, when we talked on the phone real brief Friday and Saturday, you said, hey, there's some shit going on. I don't want to talk about it on the phone. Like, today's a really good time to address all that stuff with these guys here while we're at it, too. If there's anything that's happened in the meantime.
It's not about this
Okay.
as much as, you know, like so with Amanda and Jenny. Just Kawasaki.
Okay.
Yep. We'll get into that.
Getting,
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, my God, you know, if they've been pressed or whatever, too, they got to know that you can't keep spreading people's name across the shit.
Yeah.
If something happens,
Well, and
I'm just
that's
saying,
where-
not threatening, I'm being a dick, but if something happens to one of my kids or my wife from anything one of these people do, our deal is.
I would expect that, right?
It'll be a dual prosecution. I'll be right there with them for something else. But.
Right. No, I would expect that, right? And I appreciate it. Like, how could it be any other way, right? Let me just, some baseline stuff here. Is it Stephen?
Yeah.
P-H-E-N? What's the middle?
J.
J-A-Y or just J?
No, J's initial. Oh, Jon.
Okay.
John Stephen J.
And then it's Robeson. What's your birthday?
463. Now,
What's your cell?
608-450. Now, why is my phone being looked? What's going to be looked at on my phone?
Well, we don't have. That's something we'd like to.
Only pertaining to this case.
That's our goal, but here's the thing: if there's something else on the
There's no
phone,
smoking gun about criminal activity or nothing.
right? Like, okay, let's say there's something about weed on the phone, right? We don't care about it, but if you're in option 3 or option 2 as a witness for the defense or for the prosecution, we want to know. Like the AUSAs are going to ask us, is he using drugs? Is he using weed? Is he using coke? Is he using meth? Right? Is he selling those? Is he trafficking weapons? Like they're going to ask, who is he for impeachment purposes for the defense or for the prosecution? Nobody cares about it.
Well, that's fine.
But yeah. So at the end of the day, it comes down to the way I look at it is this is almost a check the box thing. Like we can say we've treated him just like everybody else. And we looked into it and we know the truth, right? Which can come out 2 ways, right? Like if you're option 2 and you're a prosecution witness, that can help protect you, right? If you're option 3 and you're a defense witness, well then we're going to use it against you, right? And hopefully in knowing those facts, it'll make the AUSAs comfortable to make you option 1, which is a witness for neither side.
I mean, there's pictures of weapons and stuff on my camera, but there's no pictures of there's no illegal activity. I guess, is a way to do it.
Well, and that's a point in your favor, right?
Yeah.
That's back to Hank was saying, trust but verify. That's verification, right?
I mean, there's pictures. My wife's a legal gun owner. We have weapons, and there's pictures of them on my phone. So,
is there anything embarrassing like dick pics or something on the phone?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
My kids get their phone way too often.
Okay. We don't care about it, right?
No,
You'd be surprised.
So, but they will have that downloaded and what they need by the time we leave here, right?
They should. Yeah, that's the goal.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm assuming, is it a smartphone?
I don't know.
Oh, is it? Does it have Facebook on it?
It's smarter
It's
than
not. Is it a?
It's an Android.
Yeah, it's not a flip phone.
Okay. I'm guessing you're not. Yeah, it probably doesn't have a bunch of. Sometimes with kids, they have so much.
There's nothing
Okay,
on it.
perfect.
Like I said, my kids use it. So.
Are there any pins to any apps or passwords or anything on it?
Nothing.
What's your address?
Oxford, Wisconsin.
Road, Oxford, Wisconsin. What's the zip there?
53952.
3952. Okay. And then, how long you been a source? We don't really more than 5 years.
Oh no, less than this year, I'm sure.
So 20 or 19.
Yeah, I think 20. January, February, March.
How'd that happen? How'd you actually become a source? It seems a fairly awkward conversation.
We should probably get to the non-disclosure.
Oh yeah.
We haven't quite done that.
Yep. Go ahead. You don't have to put your social security number if you want. I wouldn't. And we'll talk about this. So,
What's the date?
10th, 12/10.
just
Thank you, sir.
even if people ask and they get into it, be real careful and don't tell sensitive stuff to Kawasaki, Plunk, Higgins, anybody, regardless of what happens.
Anybody's
Right?
girlfriend, boyfriend,
Right,
somebody calls you haven't talked to in a long time,
We can talk strategy, how to deal with it. But at the end of the day, right, it's a bottom line. Like, just, we're getting into some deep stuff here.
Like I said, my attorney told me don't discuss this with anybody, period. That was my strategy.
Gotcha. Do you have an attorney?
No. Do I need an attorney?
No.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, it's up to you, right? It's your right, but...
So that was your...
That was my reply.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Got it.
I haven't had enough coffee.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Actually, Corey, I'm just going to give this to you. I don't think I need to sign this.
Okay.
I think you're good.
Steve, I want to let you know, too, like, it's already almost 11. There's obviously, these guys have a lot of important stuff to help you understand and talk about. So if we get in, lunch is on me. If you want anything, we got, like, a Jersey Mike's here. We got Subway close by. We got a bunch of restaurants. If you get hungry, you let me know.
We'll figure out what we want to do, whatever you need to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll order. We'll get it taken care of.
Okay. What was I going over? You cut me off, Dad?
Yeah, where were we going? You were. Going down
became a source.
Yes.
2000. Yep. Okay. Who was your? How did it happen?
Well, I actually went to our local sheriff and just told him that I had concerns about some people in the 3% movement that I thought were a little bit dangerous. I just honestly thought that they were dangerous to people. And he arranged a meeting with you guys.
Okay.
And I think it was Doug.
Doug was the first agent?
Yeah, I think.
Okay.
And then we talked, and they were very interested in some of the people that I had contact with in and around the movement. So.
Okay.
And we went from there.
Can we talk a little bit about like what made you were concerned? Can we talk a little bit about that?
There was discussion between people like Croft. I don't remember. He was the only one in the meeting. There was a couple. I don't really remember the names of all of the people that initially made me think that.
We're talking out-of-staters, out-of-state guys, or was it?
I had a concern about one of our in-state guys too.
Okay. Gotcha.
Actually, one of them was Leaguer back in the day.
Okay.
And there was a couple in-state, but most of them were out-of-state people inside the movement. Mm-hmm. I had been kind of discussed through a few different groups as becoming a national lead for Patriot 3%ers United States. And then there's a Michigan chapter, Wisconsin chapter, an Ohio chapter, Virginia chapter, et cetera, et cetera.
So let me understand, like day one, right? It sounds like day one, Leaguer and Croft were in the picture. Like when you came to
but not with each other. They were separate entities then.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, at some point...
What made you concerned?
Just the brandish talking about... Excuse me, the violence towards law enforcement actually is what brought the concern to me, and I didn't want that. Honestly, if they're talking about, I was a state lead by now. I'm, in charge of Wisconsin, and talking about doing a national thing, and they're talking about doing stuff that sets us back 10 years, and we're trying to establish rapport and relationships with law enforcement, and they're talking about doxing and doing things to law enforcement, and I just I felt that was honestly, I just felt that it was dangerous, and it was certainly not a way where I was willing to go.
So there was...
That's super helpful.
Yeah, and there was... I've seen some Facebook messages back and forth with you and Croft back in 19. And there's some...
At the end of 19?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of some discussion about... It seemed like there was a transition point on Croft from law enforcement towards, like, politicians.
Correct. And that might have been at the end of 19 back then.
Okay. And something that I think, just so we're on the same page, we need to understand, because we'll be upfront with you, like, we saw Facebook messages where you and Croft were talking, and then you're kind of putting governors out there and politicians like, hey, these guys are corrupt, tyranny.
Yeah, I really wanted to see where he was going. You know, I did. I wanted to see what level this would go to. You know, and especially since he had the ear of a lot of people.
Sure.
And I did. And those were just in, like I said, conversations, and then even after I became, a source, I even still stayed in those conversations.
Right.
I just did because I wanted to see where they would. I wasn't sure even when I became. Back then, I just thought, this guy's off his rocker. I'm gonna, I'll see. And then even after I became an informant, I still was thinking, this guy can't be serious.
Right.
But then more and more and more, and I'm like,
he's serious, right?
Not.
And so, in retrospect, right? So when somebody reads those, though, and this is something that we're all going to have to overcome, is somebody reads the conversations between you and Croft from 2019. There's a portion of you where you're saying, like, hey, these politicians are corrupt. There's tyranny. They're not constitutionalists.
Correct.
And then Croft takes up the banner and let's go after the politicians, right? So the question, from an independent, we know what's going on, but it quickly becomes from a defense strategy. Well, this was Roby's idea from day one, right? That is an option on the table. This is Roby's idea from day one, right? He's the one.
There was a lot of phone conversations too.
Okay.
He drives, so he talks. If you look at his phone, from the time he gets in his truck till he gets out of his truck, hours and hours later, he's on the phone with somebody,
right?
And he's saying what he's thinking, and that's where it wasn't on Facebook. I don't think that my first concern came up. I think it was in phone calls. But again, I think you guys know all that. You have lots of conversations from him.
Well, Hank's trying to explain. You're correct. We know, we actually know the vast majority of what happened and what was going on, but we need to talk about what a defendant or a defense strategy, how they're going to try to portray what happened and how they're going to try to twist it to defend their client and to try to blame somebody else. Then that's
their job.
Right,
that's their job.
Right, and I mean, and they're paid liars, right? They're paid to take the truth and portray it in a different sense.
To create reasonable doubt in the jury.
Yeah, that's what they're trying to do.
That's their threshold. They just need to get one juror, right?
So, and they're going to look for those weaknesses, right? And if they perceive Robeson as a way to do it, they'll go for it, right? So, all right. So, kind of on the, so you come forward, Croft, Ledger, you're in some sort of discussions. Then you get with Bazala, with Matt. You've got, I'm sticking on, to me this is who are you, right? Who are you for the defense? You've got, what's your background as far as job, history? There's some criminal history.
There's a lot of criminal history. I was pretty criminal for 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's no...
How many kids you got?
8.
I'm the oldest of 8. Wife, sounds like. What do you do now?
I don't work. I'm on Social Security. I actually got in a bike wreck, replaced shoulder, couple knee surgeries, back surgeries.
Okay. I heard at some point you were an outlaw.
For a minute.
Okay. Are you still an outlaw?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I haven't had nothing to do with any illegal activity since 07, 06.
Okay. I thought outlaw was blood in, blood out.
Well, it kind of is, but I wasn't. They chose me because I fought well, so we don't have too many issues.
Yeah.
Okay,
Every
gotcha.
now and then I catch one of these from a couple of them if they see me somewhere. Then most of them are just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so.
That's good.
Okay. And then military?
Negative.
Okay.
Family, but not me.
Okay.
So you had 8 kids. How many are at home right now?
5.
Okay.
There's 8 kids at home, but 3 of them ain't mine.
Sure. And are they minors?
Yeah.
Okay.
The ones that are at home are.
Yeah.
Then I have 3 older kids from a previous.
Okay.
But they're adults doing their.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That was the nature of the question.
Okay. Gotcha. I
And
mean,
you've lived in Wisconsin your whole life?
No, I came up here 27 years ago from Carolina.
Okay.
We're from Carolina.
Down by Jacksonville,
Okay. I spent some time in Fayetteville.
by Robeson County.
It is.
so I'll tell you this. Facts, right? We got to deal in facts. Number one, he's not making calls from there, right? So he was arrested and he's brought in and went right into an interview, right? And I will tell you another fact, right? So Croft is telling the FBI that you tipped him off, right? That's a fact. That's a fact to put on the table, right?
Then I tipped who off?
Croft off. So there's, in this interview with Croft, right, there's a storytelling going on, right?
I did tell Croft that we got stopped.
Okay.
I did. When he called me that night, I said, "Hey, yeah, me and Brian, we're sure it was going to be on the news.
Yeah.
So, hey, why didn't you tell me, blah, 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 you know, and it didn't hurt me anyway,
Gotcha.
you know.
So Croft knew that you were hit.
Yep.
Did you tell him at all, heads up, they're coming for you?
What I did say is, you know, watch your P's and Q's and don't get no shit. And give them or something to that effect. You know, they might be wanting to talk to you too.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't say they were. You know, I don't think any of that conversation was that directed, but
So
I couldn't understand why he hadn't been hit yet. So I wanted to kind of, you know, I knew that he would be hit, but I guess that he was out of state in a truck, and I knew that too.
okay.
And, you know, I mean, let's make no bullshit. I mean, I knew where he was at, and what he was doing, and you know, so I said, you know, hey, watch out, you know, just.
So we saw an hour-long conversation with Croft and you. We saw phone records for
Yes.
it. So this was did you guys talk about a bunch of stuff? I mean,
I think, yeah, I'm sure. I think he asked what happened to me, and I gave him some blow-by-blow bullshit that, you know, yeah, they took me to the PD, and we got grilled for 2.5 hours,
Okay.
or I mean, just making it sound like everybody else that had got hit at that time. Because a lot of people got hit that didn't get arrested.
right.
So it kind of fit into that category.
So when you call, your intentions are to keep some of the heat off of you, right?
Correct.
To point people in the other direction.
Anywhere but me.
Right.
Not at anyone specific, just away from me.
Who did you want them to be pointed at?
I didn't care.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. And I get it, right? I mean, that makes complete sense. Point away from him. So I personally can't say that, you know, some FBI agent didn't say Robeson threw you under the bus, right? Like, I wasn't there in Delaware. I can't say that didn't occur. You know, I don't see it in the recorded interview. Clearly there was a, you know, prolonged arrest and processing and extradition and, you know, so, but it doesn't sound believable to me because I know.
You guys checked the phone records from where he talked to Chassis at some point.
No, so I think there's a slight miscommunication here. We believe that Croft said that to Chastity.
Yes.
Yeah, we totally believe that happened. We believe that Croft is making it up. And that's what Hank's trying to explain.
Yeah.
We think that's a total fabrication on Croft's part.
Which very well could be.
Right.
That's our opinion.
And part of the reason we're having the discussion, right, is to understand what's the motivation, right? So put yourself in Croft's position. Croft knows people are hit. He doesn't know what's going on, but he needs to keep the heat off of him, right? So, law of recency, right? You call him, and this is where I think you've made a few critical errors, right?
Okay.
You didn't know when he was going to be hit. The fact that you called him, right, and then he's hit shortly thereafter makes you look bad, right? We were trying to keep you out of it, but basically, you call, he gets hit, he's going to be pretty pissed, right? He's thinking...
That doesn't necessarily exist, but he's saying, he set me up.
And especially with the conversation you had, watch your P's and Q's, right? So for us, in my mind, it makes complete sense that Croft would be pissed and Croft would be saying, watch out for Robeson, he threw me under the bus, right? That, to me, that's completely logical. I would expect him to say that without any knowledge, right?
Okay.
Does that add up?
Yeah, I just don't think he processes like as much as that.
Okay. And he may not. He may not, right? But you're correct, and I think that's where your knowledge of these guys, at some point, can cloud your judgment a little bit. He may not process, but we're coming in from the outside perspective, and that's what a lot of people are coming in from. So Chastity, McDonald, anybody he talks to will ask the question. Okay, they're going to say, who's the sources? How'd this happen? And an outside person would say, he said, well, I talked to Roby. Roby said, mine is my P's and Q's. The next thing I knew, I was arrested, right? An outside person like McDonald, Chastity, any rational outside person would say, well, Roby screwed you over, right? Even if you know that Croft is not there enough. Does that make sense?
Even be going there. And again, your opinion matters here, right? Because you have interacted directly with these guys. If we're talking about someone who's more given to conspiracy theory, like the government's out to get me, blah, 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 like he could easily be saying on that hour-long phone call, they were trying to figure out, he had me on the phone because they were trying to figure out where I was.
And you know what? We were trying to figure out where he was. That's absolutely true. We were tracking his phone, trying to figure out where he was, right?
But the reality is, right? Reality, you had nothing to do that. You had no idea. You had no clue. But from his perspective, he's saying, it was Roby. Threw me under the bus.
So I think like on that, like if you're mad or concerned that the FBI threw you under the bus, I think I wouldn't be if I was you. Like that is a circumstantial thing.
I'm not convinced in any way, shape, or form. I'm saying, I've had agents and different cops tell me different things that sometimes I know that happens. But my point is that's where that got started at.
Yep.
Sure.
And it was from a phone call
from Chastity.
Yep.
Croft to Chastity.
Yeah.
So I want to point out just real quick, we took a lot of time and effort in writing the documents that were going to go public to make sure that you were completely separate. And based on
anybody that looks at the documents now pretty much knows that, well, they don't assume it's me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We did a lot of work to make sure that didn't happen. So we're not selling you out.
Okay.
And this is where a saying we have in my office is don't let the facts get in the way of a good story, right? So the fact of the matter is, right, there's a story being told, which it doesn't always include facts.
So, question, as we're sitting here, because this is how everything else has happened, is my house being investigated right now?
What do you mean being investigated?
Is my house under any supervision or any agents at my house?
we're watching. We're trying to see.
That's what I mean. Is somebody watching to make sure,
like
keeping an eye so there's nobody.
Oh,
I don't want somebody burning my house.
Oh yeah, today, like right now, yes. Like we've got some people watching your house, and part of that is to verify what you're up to, right? Okay. So we want to know,
We need to be able to tell other people that we're not just taking your word.
Yes. Now, like when you say like in general, right? Like tomorrow, we're not going to be watching your house, right? Like it's purely today for this. So like if you leave tomorrow and you're saying like for safety considerations, right? If somebody comes tomorrow, we're not going to be around protecting, right? We're not going to be around watching.
What are they doing at my house right now then?
Honestly, I don't know. I just know there's a team of folks out there. So part of what we're doing is we want to verify every aspect of what you say, truthfulness, right? So the phone is part of it, right? Getting some eyes on the house is part of it. And then talking to you is part of it.
So
our job is here.
I want to know about people inside my house.
I don't know about anybody inside your house. I wouldn't mind being able to go in there and look myself and search. But that's something on the table for us, is if you'll consent to allow us to go in your house.
We'll talk about that.
We wasn't planning on bringing it up until at the end, but I'm not going to bullshit you. And I think the question becomes, right, for us, how far, which role does it look like you're going to be into, right? And what are the impacts of those roles, right?
Yeah, well, my daughter may have a pipe downstairs that she smokes weed out of, and
I mean, we don't care about that.
Well, I'm just telling you that. I don't know how comfortable I am with that.
Maybe, I guess for me, like the reason we would want to go into your house would be twofold, right? One would be, do you have any sort of electronic evidence on computers or anything that we could use independently for discussions with Croft to like get into, or any of this, right? Is there anything that we can say, hey, we'll take this instead of Steve, right?
Well, you have everything, communication that I have with Croft, because you have Croft's stuff, so it seems a little...
It's a way for us to independently say that.
Well, we're already past it independently now, because we're fixing to give all the defense attorneys who I am the whole 9 yards. So let's independently verify. We have recordings to independently verify what I've said. I've made sure that they've been that way, and I haven't had the conversations away from that other,
So
than what I.
Let's make sure we're on the same page with this, because I think it's important to you, right? When we give stuff to the defense, you got to realize that we have 150 hours of recordings from undercovers and sources, right? We have the volume of recordings that you've done is kind of like this, and we have it like this, right? So, and when we give recordings, and when our obligation to the defense for discovery is we have to give over, what is considered evidence and what could be used against them. What we don't have to do, like you picked up on, is tell them who it is, right? Like we are not saying Steve Robeson is this guy, right? We're not saying Steve Robeson is pitcher. We're not saying, now they can come to their own conclusions, but the other thing is, what we've done is everything we give over is under court seal. So if any of it's compromised, now, I'm not saying that that's an end-all, be-all, right, and that people aren't going to know. But it can't be in public domain, legally, right? At the end of the day, if somebody's testifying, it'll be out there, right? So
if the lawyer has and the client gets it, then from anything the lawyer has, the client has access to. So
you're correct.
Whether he tells the world is kind of irrelevant.
I agree.
If he tells the world, we can bring down the hammer. That's the point.
it might be too late, right? For your I mean, I understand your
That's
point.
not necessarily the concern.
That doesn't make you feel better, right? I understand that, but from the benefit you have, right, is somebody is going to have to look exceptionally hard to try to figure stuff out. I mean, I can tell you that if you just sat down and listened to the recordings only, it's a 2-month process, right? The amount of hours, right? And it is an extended process and that's all of them.
So we don't have to tell anybody which part is important or not.
Or who made which one.
Yeah, exactly.
We're producing.
We just give them the audio file.
And at the end of the day, right, I mean, this is a technique that I use and that I try to be upfront with, and I'm sorry we weren't able to, that it's now becoming aware to you. But the whole concept is the day, for any source within the Bureau, the day you make a recording is you're pretty much guaranteeing at some point you're going to sign up and go in court. And then the next thing is the concept of how things come out is the best chance is to create utter confusion and chaos by having everybody, like at the end of the day, my goal would be the witness list for whoever goes to trial will be Adam Fox, Amanda Keller, Kawasaki, Steve Robeson, like everybody, right? It's a who's who of everybody in the mix. And I'm fairly confident that when anybody looks at that witness list, they're not going to trial. Now, because they know the ramifications, right? I'm not saying that that's something you want, right? And our plan up to this point was to not have you on the witness list. The goal, like your home run option here, that option 1, is your name is not on the witness list.
Like I said, I'm not so worried about that. Like I said, if that happens, then we'll have to do what we have to do.
Okay.
But
what's your major concern here?
My major concern is the invasion of me doing something with no agenda, now putting me in a hot seat that I didn't create. So I don't like my personal space violated.
I get that.
At all.
I get that.
I don't violate other people's personal space. Don't expect mine violated.
I get that.
I'm okay with it.
That sounds really important to you.
Well, it does. It's a concept that I believe in, which is why I'm so against what they do, the way they did it, because you can't scream constitutional and not stand on it.
You're talking about them being these guys.
Yeah.
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 You know, I don't condone what they did, don't approve of it, and that's why I did what I did.
Yeah.
But now we're talking about everything that I say I stand for getting violated on my behalf. And I'm just like, wait a minute, that ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I get it. So you don't, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You don't want the government in your business, just like I don't want the government in my business.
I'm not going to have them in my business.
Right.
I'm not going to have. I don't feel good about them even having my phone. But again, I was told it was a security measure when I came in, and that's fine, and it is what it is. But now we're already to where they're downloading, and that's cool. Like I said, I'm not worried about that. There's no illegal shit on there, so I'm not worried about that. But point being, I feel like I was lied to start with, and now we're talking about we want to go through your house, through your kids' stuff, through your wife's stuff, through your stuff, and I'm not okay with that. I think we're getting right into the nuts and bolts of why I'm sitting here in the first place. And
Yes.
Absolutely.
So let's take this one step at a time. You don't want to provide consent to your house, which is your right, and you don't have to, right? We get it. And we didn't.
You don't really need consent, and this is my point. Let's stop the bullshit about that. You don't need consent to go in my house. You can say, I'm going to do that, we have a warrant, whatever we want to do. And that's, again, I consider that part of the Constitution, too. If you have a warrant, you have access. By God, then you're allowed to do that, and I'm not.
Sure.
Let's say that Biden, let's take Biden. If he wins the presidency, he's my president. I don't give a shit. I didn't have to agree with him. He's still my president.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. At the same time, I'm not gonna go outside the realm of what I say I believe in and say it's okay. Now I feel like I shouldn't even be having this conversation now, because we're already talking about stepping on different parts of the part that I kind of went into this and put my dick on a chopping block to keep open.
So we don't want you to feel like you have to do something on our behalf because of the position you're in, right? So
But
I think
I'm not in a position. I'm not in a position. I mean, I chose to stand up and say, hey, I think this is dangerous and this is where it's led us.
Yep.
And that's okay, and that's cool. I'm cool with that.
Yep.
Those are my decisions. It wasn't my decision, it wasn't my voluntary decision for you to download my phone. It wasn't my do I care about it? Not really, because like I said, there's nothing either. But I care about is you did it deceptively.
okay.
And now we're talking about going to my house, and that was a goal since we sat down.
Hey, why do you think we did it deceptively?
Because he said put everything in here in this bag, and I put my hat, my recorder, my phone, and different things in there. He said she's got to security check it.
Yeah.
Because there's a thing there. It wasn't that we're going to download this, we want this, and we want that. It wasn't none of that.
Correct.
We get in here, and I signed the waiver so you can do it and don't really care, because, like I said, I'm not really worried about what's on the phone.
Right.
What I'm having an issue with is it was deceptively done before I signed that, and
So we can't download the thing without your consent or without a warrant. That's how it works. Like no one from the public that comes in here can have a phone in here. Them's the rules.
So if you
And I
still
get
said
that.
no, you wouldn't have
okay, but we're here now, and like I said, I think I may just go ahead and call Bob, a friend of mine's an attorney, and I don't think I'm going to do anything else until I talk to him.
Okay.
I think that's where I'm at, because I think there's a whole bunch of not on the table things, and I'm just like, wait a minute, why am I the one under the gun?
Well, and I'll tell you, and you can tell this to your attorney, right? At the end of the day, right, and this is where we're going with the conversation, and all these guys, right, is at the end of the day, that third option where you're a witness for the defense is a fairly strong option, right? And part of the reason it's an option is because of the decisions you've made, throughout the entire time. And I think we anticipate it as something that'll continue to happen, right? So the question becomes, right, if you plan on helping out Brian Higgins or being a witness for his defense, right, or being a witness for Croft or any of that, right, that was where we wanted to go. Now, you can talk to your attorney, right? Like, there's no issues with that. We weren't planning on that, right? So that wasn't part of our plan. I think what we would want to do is probably step out, talk amongst yourselves, go get your phone. We had planned an all-day thing here to go over, grab lunch. Clearly, it's voluntary, so you can take off if you want, and you can call your attorney.
Well, I understand it's voluntary. My point is, like I said, I'm not. I stand on what I believe, and that's why I'm sitting here for what I did and took away from the time I needed to take away from my home. But point bearing, I'm not okay with backdoor maneuvers, and I just feel like that's what just happened. I feel like that happened from the time I walked in the door until right now where I'm at. And like I said, if I had a problem with it, I wouldn't have signed the consent.
Sure.
That's not the issue. The issue is that it was taken under the pretense of that, and we talked about that before that, and then we had this.
Well, I'm going to emphasize, there's no pretense. When members of the public come into this office, there's a, like,
I get
phone
it.
zone.
No, I understand.
Yep.
That I understand.
Yep.
But,
So
being said that that's the reason that it's going to be, you know, and the other side of that coin was, there's a recording device. Everything I've ever done, I've recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Every meeting, good meeting, every bad meeting, everything I've done, I've recorded.
Yeah.
Some for you, some for myself. You know, I'm just making sure that I'm covered, and I just feel like, I just really feel like it's.
Can I ask you, just maybe, we weren't talking about anything related to that when you started voicing these concerns. So I'm curious.
Searching my house,
No.
searching my properties. Yeah, he said he had it. That was no. He said that was going to be at the end of the conversation, and since I brought it up,
Yeah, but even before all of that, like, what caused you to be concerned about all this? Like, we weren't talking about any of that.
what was my flag? Is that what you're asking?
What's your concerns?
It wasn't, yeah, it wasn't part of the conversation. We were talking about Dublin, Ohio. What happened there?
Oh no, I don't know what actually. If it was something he said the way he said it, I'm trying to think back what the whole conversation was, and then we got cued on that, and I'm like,
Because we were talking about Dublin, Ohio, and the Facebook pages. You know, and that, I mean, that.
oh
has
yeah,
nothing
then
to
he
do
said,
with anything.
yeah, because he said the Facebook pages, and they were talking about, you know, the devices that I have conversations with that are, and those are my personal devices now. You know, I mean, I don't-
Okay, gotcha. So, yep.
And then I said, well, why would you do that? So are you guys watching my house with that? Do you want those or something? And we just kind of snowballed into that, and I'm just like, you know, why am I the target of this now? So
we can, we can go into, and I don't mind doing this, right? We didn't want this to be confrontational, right? We were trying, what our goal here was to start with a baseline and make sure we work our way up. I have no problem, and I have, each time we go through it, telling you every single thing where I've been told or I believe you've said something, you know, or you're being portrayed in a light that's negative, right? I can do that.
and I'm okay with that. I've put myself in those
Yep.
positions in different
And we can,
situations.
if you want, we can do that. The question is, right, are you stopping this now? Did you want to talk to a lawyer? Did you want to hear that from me? Like, the ball's in your court here.
I really am just so divided on this, and I'm just like, man, I kind of always want to believe that the good's going to come through and everything, and you know, but
Well, I think what Hank's bringing up.
people at my house, you know, and
Back to the part where the defense is going to try to make you the bad guy. We know what they're going to do. Like, we know the storylines they're going to share, and we would like to go over those with you. But we're not going to have the opportunity to do that.
And Steve, man to man, like as I'm looking at you right now, if you feel deceived, that's on me. I apologize to you. You don't deserve that. You've worked hard. You're on board. We're a team. But I want you to understand something. There's an arc to what we're doing, and we're going to get there. And by the time all this is done, you're going to know exactly where we're going, and you're going to be comfortable with it.
I'll tell you the end game, the defense, right, for the case, for option 3, is that for Adam Foxencroft is that Robeson is the worst guy. He played us. He had firearms. In fact, he organized that stuff, and you guys are letting him off the hook. That he's your star witness, and how come he's not going down? At the end of the day, we have to go through every one of those. So the question becomes, right? Are you using us? Do you have a bunch of guns, right? Are you actually playing the bureau when you create this stuff, right? And we don't believe that's the case, but we have to prepare for it. That's why we're independent outsiders.
that
Is
conversation.
like the question becomes from the U.S. Attorney's Office is that occurring, right? Are you guys being played, and is that a viable defense? Like at the end of the day, is Roby going to go up there and shut down the entire case when he says he's going to be right? That's the question.
well, I mean, and here's my take on that is you have it from multiple sources, actual agents, So we know all the players and their positions. I had firearms. Then I got recorded where I was allowed to have them and sign documents and for those particular events. So, do I personally own them? No. My wife owns some other ones, but you know.
Well, and that's something, right? You got to understand how the defense is going to portray it, right? That is an optics thing.
Like,
We'll do the
you know
facts.
The defense doesn't care.
Like,
they're going to change the story.
I can tell you that I could exploit that story all day long, right? Like, oh, sure, you're right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is a discussion point that the prosecution and the defense need to worry about, right? It's like at the end of the day, like the prosecution wants to know from Facebook to weapons handling to training to involvement to naming people in XO, right? Like all of those, which role do you fall into, right? So all the players, you're right. We know all the roles except for you, right? Nobody right now knows your role because it's spinning, and our intent was to leave with have that role, not to solidify it. Like the good, bad, the ugly. Like it's confronted, right? There's nothing that's not on the table. That's why I can tell you, older agents, other agents, people are reluctant to confront you with what they know you would not want them to do, right? At the end of the day, our job is if there is some sort of, let's go here. If you've got a 50 cal rifle in your house, I want to know about it, right? I want to know.
There was one in there.
And
it wasn't illegal.
Okay.
But these are the things we're going to talk about.
I'm the same.
Right.
Because a defense attorney is going to say it was.
How is it illegal?
Because you're a felon.
I'm not. It's not mine.
But it's in your house.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff I can be around them. I can't have it.
Technically.
Oh, this is
No, seriously.
per law by the state attorney.
Yeah.
My wife could have 100,000 guns.
You're not supposed to have access to them.
Oh, I don't have access to them.
Well, but you see, a defense attorney is going to be like, oh, well, he says it, but it's his house. You see what I'm saying? A defense attorney is not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Here, we've been giving you the benefit of the doubt, and we have to be able to nail all this stuff down so that when people try to paint the different picture, we have answers for them.
Right, and so at the end of the day, right, like if we ignore it now, right, like let's say we table the discussion and turn our head the other way on firearms, right? Well, there's going to be a D-Day where that's going to come up, right? And it's going to come up where nobody, like you're going to be option 3 for the defense because the prosecution is not going to call you and you're not going to be the home run. They're going to step back for option 1 and 2 and then it's fend for himself on the defense when it comes up, right? Like if we ignore it, which we can, right? That option is on the table. Let's not worry about firearms. Like the reason I was wanting to ask you about that at the end was to answer that question about firearms, knowing you would have an issue with it, and knowing I didn't want it to be a distraction in here.
It's not so much a distraction as it is. It's. I went out of my way to be very antiseptic, very clean about anything I've done where those are concerned. If I handled a firearm, I had the waiver to do it at that time. If I was around it, and there's paperwork to...
I can tell you the perception among the Bureau is the exact opposite. Is that you've been the perception, having never talked to you and knowing, is that you've been careless and you've exploited it. Right?
I might have been careless a couple times, but I didn't exploit it. I think I could have used better judgment on a couple occasions when asked about something. I said, "Oh yeah, but I didn't exploit it because I didn't have a reason to. I mean, I don't really care one way or another."
Okay, so you can see why these are things we have to
And
figure out.
like I said, I'm okay asking questions, but I'm not okay.
Tell you what, the consent to search is off the table, right? We're not even going to go there.
But I'm just saying, you don't need that consent, is my point. And my point is...
Correct. We're speaking from a position of power, right? That's why we're here. We planned this out. We know we have power, right? We know we have leverage. We're not gonna bullshit you.
Well, I mean, leverage is... And I don't look at you guys as having leverage. I don't. Maybe it's because I don't want to look at it that way. I don't look at it as you having leverage. I mean, I think we have the both same end game goal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I think, that honestly you're assuming that I'm gonna say it. So I just don't feel it's okay to. And I hate that word violate, because it's not violate. I just don't think it's okay to go against my rights of having these stuff.
Well, let me tell you,
I don't think it's a violation. I don't think you guys go out and violate people.
Yeah.
I just don't think that.
Just think about it this way: a defense attorney, even when we come back and say, "Hey, we had this great conversation with Steve, super forthright, showed us some things, explained some things we didn't understand," they're just going to say, "Well, did you do any follow-up to prove that what he said was right?"
What would need to be followed up? I'm just saying.
I'll tell you, I've got a list of pressure points right here.
Yes.
I wrote it down. These are the pressure points to come out at the appropriate time. All right?
Yeah, do them all.
All right, here's the pressure points. I'm just going to go through them. 501c3, the 300 blackout in the shotgun, the Ruger from Jenny, the 50 cal, the dash camera, the time that you told Dan and Jenny that you were going to be the leader of attack planning in both states, the National Guard guys you have, and the prison guard guy you have. That's my list of pressure points to get answers to if you felt comfortable during the meeting.
Well, go at them.
All right. So the 501c3.
Okay, it's not what I thought. And I haven't used anything of that. The only thing I've ever used from that, for other than doing, my wife created a 501c. It's called Race Not Racist.
Yep.
All right, and we had in Baraboo a couple years ago when we started it, we did get into doing at the Civic Center. We held a meeting. We had the police chief there, and we were getting into building relationships and stuff. It's kind of sat dormant. It sat dormant for a while, and basically she's been just cashing her paychecks to it mostly, just to try to keep it open so we're not sucking it up on the fees on it. A couple things have went through it when we gave a safety class.
Like a firearm safety.
Yeah, just a safety class, and at that one, if you want to check with the other people that were there, I had a dummy gun.
So let's cut to the chase on why we want, right? Okay. Why it's a pressure point for us. For us, the pressure point is the Wolverine Watchmen and the people that are charged believe that they had access through you to purchase weapons for the 501c3 because they were told by people they trusted, yourself and Croft, that this 501c3 exists so that we can mask weapons purchases for our attacks. So they believe it.
The discussion that took place was, and I said it knowing that I was recording it. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So it was to carry that conversation further. I'm being recorded, and I know you can't do that. And I'm being recorded on your device. And I said, yeah. I said, well, yeah, we can hide it. We can do this and send it out through that or something. But we never did.
Right.
And
sure.
I was never going to, but
sure.
It was certainly a viable thing to keep the conversation going. And I knew it was being recorded, and I was specifically told that we weren't allowed to do that. Mm-hmm. So me knowing that, knowing it was recorded, I absolutely had no intention of fucking doing that.
So you see how...
That's good. And now that you're coming at that, that's what I want to know. I want to know what your concern is.
So the concern is entrapment, right? Okay. Did you bring up something, because you're an agent of the government, did the agent of the government bring up the idea to them, right? That's the concern. And at the end of the day, right, like, I would tell you, as your handler, I would slap you upside the head and say, shut the hell up and don't do that, right?
Correct.
And so then the 501c3, right? It wasn't brought up just once. It was brought up a couple times because then it ended up being a thing for the guys, right? They're excited. So,
I see that.
like, so the question becomes, right? Like, so, like, did you guys use it to purchase plywood for Wisconsin?
I've used it to buy, to donate, and legally donate, to buy fence posts.
Okay.
Some fence posts.
So is there any ammo or guns?
My house, that's never been used to purchase any ammunition, guns, or equipment. Never, ever.
Right.
Never, ever.
So,
And financial records that back all that.
Yeah, there's not really financial. There's only ever been a couple $100 to it.
okay. Perfect, right? So, okay.
Yeah.
So we brought up the 501c3, right? Great. The 300 blackout, right? Or, I don't...
Yes, 300 black.
Cross gun.
Yeah. So, I got pictures, right? Okay, so there's the 501c3.
Correct.
Right? There's the 50 cal. In fact, I'm not hiding anything from you. You can look at all these. These are some Facebook messages. There's non-disclosure, but I don't want you thinking I'm holding back something and... It's everything I wanted to talk about. That's the dash cam, right? So when we got the dash cam, it's time-stamped, it's date-stamped, it's got audio recording, and it's got Higgins' plate on it, right? And everybody's talking about attacking the governor, right? So when Higgins shows up, and I've got a timestamp with him talking about attacking the governor, I'm in communication with the governor's protection detail, moving her around so she doesn't get killed. What do you think is going to happen, right? Well, I've got a guy from out of state who's collecting pretty damn good intel with pretty good... I mean, that guy is good on encryption, and he claims that he can have access to her schedule to complete the attacks. What am I supposed to do with that?
Who said that?
He did.
Higgins.
He said he can hack and get her schedule to take her out, to finalize everything.
Back to your question about why he's charged.
I can tell you, I didn't know that.
We have really good evidence.
I'm just saying, I didn't know that.
We're
He
not
never
saying
said
you
it to me.
did. We're not saying you did. We're saying there's reasons he's charged.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Some of
who
this is
said
sitting
that?
in front of you.
And I'm saying, like, right now, if you're sticking with the story that he was out there on a pedophile ring, you'll be a star witness in the defense. There's zero options for that.
Well, I'm not going to stick that, and I'm going to tell you right now. But my position on this is the same. It's never changed from day one, and it's the same thing I told them when they first said it. If that was their position, I give no shits about them, and they are absolutely a traitor to anything we've ever done. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can call me a traitor, a snitch, whatever you want to do, but I still haven't went outside the scope of what I said I believed in.
Mm-hmm.
I have not done that, period.
No.
That's important. At the end of the day, that's what matters.
That's the most important thing.
So there's the 300 blackout, right? So what I heard on the 300 blackout, this is me when I took it apart for the silencer in our office.
Yeah, and that was my concern. And I showed, I'm the one that gave the pictures. I took pictures of it.
Which pictures? Those ones?
I think I took this one. I took a picture like that.
Okay.
I don't know. And because it had a stamp, it said not for civilian. It was only for law enforcement or military.
Yep.
Right.
And I saw that, and that's.
So
Then I immediately called him and said, "Hey, this is out of the property. What do you want me to do?"
So there's a perception problem there too, right? So the perception problem there is that it wasn't immediate.
This.
No, I took that.
No, did you take that?
Yeah, it's in my
I took a
office.
picture of it sitting just like that.
Okay. That's a guy from Wisconsin, right? I think that's Zach. Yep.
Which Zach?
I think.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. Let me see one of these. That guy
Yep,
is
that guy. Same guy.
that guy.
Zach Grump.
Yep. So like this right here, this is a smoking gun, right? Black bag.
Where is this at?
In Wisconsin, somewhere at Young's house.
Is it at Mike John's?
Yeah. So
What?
somebody puts on a
Is
face.
this that weekend that they were here?
Yep.
Okay, I wasn't here. I wasn't there. I let him know when I left and when I came back. So whatever this is, wherever this is.
So did you ever hear about somebody practicing the kidnapping of a governor?
No.
Okay.
But that's exactly Cape and Hood.
Right.
Because the guy who's being kidnapped there, quote unquote kidnapped, that's Ty Garvin. He's one of the federal case subjects right now.
So you've got, like right now, like you've got a Wisconsin Patriot 3%er role-playing the kidnapping with a Wolverine Watchman at the training you set up, right?
Well,
Like, that's a fact, right? And the question...
It wasn't just me. There was, I set it up and...
These are the things we need to discuss.
But I'm saying it was discussed before I ever even gave a date. They had talked about on the phone of getting together and doing the training. And before I said yes, no, or anything, I had talked to...
You can see how a defense attorney could spin that.
Yeah, but I mean, in his notes, doesn't Matt have notes that we talked about?
Yep, but it's and correct me if I'm wrong, the training occurred, Matt was aware of the training, but the training wasn't something that was requested to be put on by, like, did you know the Wolverine Watchmen, when you started and organized the training, did you know that the Watchmen were coming from Michigan?
I knew that actually there was more than just the Wolverine. There was Illinois, there was John.
Yeah, but when you did it, you were doing, correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing it under the Patriot 3%ers as a joint exercise, which you've done other joint exercises.
Yes.
Right? So you were not doing it, and I don't want to put these words in your mouth, but the question is...
Did I do it under FBI's directive?
Right.
No, and it wasn't just, but I'm saying it wasn't me. It was Adam that asked if they could do that.
Yep.
It was Barry asked if we could get a joint one together. It was...
So the question...
Illinois.
The question...
And I asked before I said yes.
The question becomes,
Yes.
right, did a bunch of terrorists Shanghai your training for their purposes, or did you set up a training for terrorists, right? That's the question, right? There's a training that happened in which a terrorist operation was planned and played out, and you're involved in setting it up, right? And
I was involved in setting the FTX up.
Correct. And there's a lot...
There was a lot of different training.
And there's a lot of evidence that said that you were setting up the training on your own before that, right? And that you're not responsible for what these guys do, right?
I'm not responsible.
And you weren't aware.
And I wasn't there when they did that, and Dan was, so he'll know that, and that's got to be part of that evidence.
It is, right?
So in red, I mean, everybody knows that was, done when somebody wasn't there. That was a very private, because I can't see Mike John knowing that neither.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, it's right in the middle of the day, in the middle of the property, on a picnic table, right?
Yeah.
So whoever's like, there's no hiding the ball. You didn't happen to be there, but other people happened to be there, right?
Do you know if it was the Saturday or the Sunday? No,
that's what I was hoping you could help me with.
The Saturday, there was more of a course, and then there was a medical, there was...
Let me play you this clip, right? This clip here is going to be hotly debated amongst the AUSAs. And this is a recording you did of Barry Croft. There's two significant recordings that day. One of the significant recordings is when Croft shows up early. He's in your house, and he's making an IED, right?
Okay.
And he's talking about, do they need grease to put it together? He's talking about it being 200 to 300 rounds of ammo is the gunpowder. He's, I assume it's your wife, Kim, that comes in, and she's making dinner, and then you guys talk about how at the end of the day, you're going to put it in an oven, and then Croft talks about how he's going to use this IED to throw at law enforcement and take out as many faggots as he can, right? So there's this
and I'm recording it, right?
You're recording it.
Because that would go to speak, because he was talking about something, And I think I remember this, and I went and I had to go into the bathroom and go into the dark.
Yeah, I heard you in the bathroom.
And I'm trying to see this little bitty light and turn the son of a bitch on because I want it recorded in case it ever comes up, just like this right here.
Right, and you did a great job, right? So now and that's why the attorneys are going to look at that and say, hey, we didn't know about that, right? I didn't know about that until last night. I was up till midnight trying to prepare for this, and I'm like, what? So the question becomes, like, now you have some smoking gun type evidence where you're the star guy, right? That wasn't what we intended. So how do we deal with that, right?
Deal with that. You have to deal with it, man. Like I said, I'm not going to run from anything where that's concerned. I'm not going to not do what needs to be done. This is the bottom line.
That's why you're our guy.
And I'm not, like I said, as long as I know that if it has to go that route, that my family's okay, I could give two shits less.
And I'm not saying it has to go that route. I mean, I'm telling you because that route is an option.
But I told the same thing I told Matt. If it has to be that way, it has to be that way.
So here's the next clip where our question on this is this ground zero for beginning of the end of the plot of Governor Whitmer?
Can you turn it up or is it
I think that's it.
There's a couple of them that understand exactly what I mean.
He was at my house. That means Jenny was with him.
Your guy is
I think this is at the end when you guys got when Barry left the 300 blackout.
artillery raining down on this precinct. This tower just dropped over here on this fucking municipal airport runway. We can't take off birds. The choppers around it. Right. And while it's all in the midst of confusion, there's a tornado spinning through your fucking community. Wham! A quick, precise grab on that fucking governor. And all you're going to fucking end up having to possibly take out is her arm. With her arm guard. All I'm going to have to possibly do. She doesn't think about is to have her.
And see me trying to clarify it there too. I'm like,
precise group of 7 men are prepared for the job. I put 3 of them with snipers with leaders, so they're fucking shooting at each other, dropping this fucking armed guard before we broke the fucking house. All that's left breathing is her.
So it goes on, but right, like we didn't know about this, but at the end of the day, they talk about
you
7.
Got that much recordings that you didn't even get to that one yet?
Well, this wasn't ours, right? I didn't have your recordings because we're trying to keep you out of it, right? And we didn't know that conversation happened, right? So the question is, right,
do I stand on it?
No. Well, yes, we do want to know that, but
well, I have a question. Wasn't Red at this FTX?
No.
Just Dan.
Mark was there.
I know Mark was there, but I thought Dan was there too.
Dan was there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan's in the picture right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those.
Standing right next to Fox.
So, but at this time, right? I mean, the Wolverine Watchmen were talking about taking the state capitol. They were talking about, bombing and going after police precincts. Nobody knew the governor was in play at this time.
Governor Whitmer.
Right?
That wasn't really on the radar.
In retrospect, now we look back and we say, oh, shit, well, Roby and Croft talked about Governor Whitmer and a team of operators.
Man, I wish I had visual. Because I think that was sitting at that picnic table
Oh, yeah?
earlier.
Was this at the end of the training when everybody's leaving, when he's given the 300 blackout, or is this on Saturday when
I
you
think
guys...
This was Saturday.
Okay.
I think. I mean...
Because you guys went out to dinner on Saturday.
Yeah, but aren't those dated? I tried to remember to say a date and time if I had time.
Yeah, so the date on this is 7/11, which is Saturday. Or...
Well, that's
11.
No. The date on this is 7/11 through 12. They didn't specify. Hold on, let me see if I can get into the metadata here.
If you go to the beginning of that recording, I might have got it in.
do a preamble.
I tried to.
Well, you did. The problem is you and Bazala did preambles on Friday, right? And then everything kept recording. So I don't know then when it got to the next day, right? The preamble in here is on Friday. So like, do you remember? I'm trying to think here. So Croft was talking about the tall guy from Michigan. I think that's Paul Bellar. He's talking about Zach. He's talking about, here, take this. Like, that sounded to me like it was in the evening after training. People are either standing around. The context, and then later you start walking.
No, that's another Zach.
Yeah, that's
Zach?
Yeah,
No,
that's
another
Esmond.
Zach. That's Zach too.
This is Dan Harris. Where's Paul?
He's not in the picture.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Okay.
he dived out.
All right.
Smart. Well, I mean, it is. It really is. Just
Right.
Common sense. You know?
So, yeah. So, at this time, you guys were outside. I heard you take something. I heard you walk. Right. Clearly, you're on the property.
Yeah.
Croft is talking to you. There's other people around. I don't know who they are. I'm assuming maybe some of your guys, maybe
I
Dan,
think
maybe
the
Zach.
conversation went. I was sitting there trying to get this audio, and Croft went off to do something. So I kind of walked after him.
Yep.
And then when he walked back over, we sat back down. And I kind of recorded the rest of the conversation.
Right.
Because he got up like 2 or 3 times, actually, just at different things. I'm like, come on, dude, how long this is going to last on the recording?
So you're thinking this is Saturday around the picnic table.
Did I not preamble that? Because I might have done it at the beginning of the recording anyway. It's Saturday, blah, blah, blah.
I didn't hear it. I mean, there's hours I can go back. I mean, there was a limited amount of hours last night, so I didn't listen to all the everything. But it'll.
I mean, you can see how, given the way everything's been charged and the way things have played out, that those 2 minutes of conversation by Croft are
imperative.
huge.
Yeah, as well as when we charged this, Wisconsin didn't really mean much, right?
The Wisconsin FTX wasn't that big of a deal.
Yes, by Wisconsin I meant the Wisconsin FTX. Now, it's a big deal, right? Now there's a bunch of things on the table that we weren't aware of.
Especially with Croft, right? So just from a legal standpoint, just to do a quick legal analysis of the situation. With Croft, again, at that time, Croft really wasn't our problem because he wasn't in Michigan. But after everything happens in Luther, he now is a Michigan thing. And we haven't gotten to talk about the Michigan stuff yet, but explosives and the use of explosives do become a point of conversation and a significant point of interest for what happens in Michigan, right? Now, as it turns out,
I forgot about that conversation until I just heard it. And I remember telling him about it when I got it. So, dude, he point blank said Whitmer in here.
So think about this. Now, we've got a case against Croft because of what happens in Michigan. Now we've got evidence to that, all that effect from what happened here in Wisconsin when he's also messing around with explosives. So there's big links here.
So clearly, Croft.
One question
go ahead.
to help you get into here. Dan's picture? Can't he tell you?
That's not Dan's picture.
Oh, that's Amanda's.
Dan doesn't even know about it.
You know how that looks. You know how that's going to play.
Yeah.
This is something else I was working on. You know how that looks.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a real picture. I watched this video. It's brutal. That's
No,
not
dude,
Yeah.
I would have immediately said, hey, they did this, this, and this, if I'd have seen this.
Right?
We believe you.
No, I'm just,
Yeah.
well, I mean, whoever, I mean, this is either that or it's Amanda, it's one or the other. But the bottom line is, or Paul, I don't know. Whoever took it can tell exactly when it was. But
back to the original
I don't
reason
remember-
why we're having these conversations. It's not that we don't believe what you're telling us. It's that we have to be able to explain all of this with some granularity because other people are going to tell a different story.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And the thing you really need to be concerned about and careful about is putting your biases of what you think into the investigation, right? So if right now you're saying could be Amanda or Dan, right? You're assuming, right? And I just want to say how
You're
this
right,
is.
and I should not. I'm sorry.
No.
I don't want nobody doing that with me either.
No. But what I'm saying, it's fine for you to think that. I'm fine with you saying that, right? The issue is that you really don't know all the aces up that we have up our
No, and I
sleeve.
don't, and I don't even want.
Right?
I just don't want to know.
Right.
You guys have to go. I don't want none of that.
Right. That's a way for us to protect everybody too.
And no, and that's just that's too. But this picture.
So let's talk about.
I would have said, hey, you know what? They practiced the black bag thing or whatever.
So let's talk about this right now. As of today, Zach is now a key witness who's for the defense or for the prosecution, right?
So yeah, think about that. He's got the same three options that we were talking about earlier.
So we want to know from somebody who knows Zach.
Zach will tell exactly what he knows, and he should. You know, I mean, he should.
So he'll look at that and say straight up, yeah, that was me. I was told to do this by so and so. It wasn't my idea. I willingly did it, not knowing, or whatever the truth of the matter is. You think he'll stand up to that?
Yeah, I do. I think he honestly, you know, me and him don't even get along that good, but he's a stand-up guy.
Okay.
I think if you say, hey, look, you know what, we know, we've got the recordings from, and if you say it from our Michigan people that were there, you don't got to say any more than that. I mean, it'll make me look a little better, but, you know.
Is there a reason why you guys don't get along?
Because I stuck up for Leader. They wanted to beat Leader. They wanted to beat his ass.
What happened?
He called everybody to Madison during the BLM movement, or Antifa, BLM.
Leader did?
Yeah. And I didn't approve it, didn't do nothing. In fact, I had to call at the last minute and say I'm going to Madison, blah, blah, blah. You know, that happened. And it turned out to be a shit show.
Yep.
And it was just a big shit show by Leader.
Sure.
Okay, and they were like, you know, and they're right, but my job was to cool the shit off.
Yeah.
Get everybody back,
You
calm
took
down.
some of the heat for him.
I took all the heat. Said, look, Leader's not going nowhere, blah, blah, blah. He's a good intelligence guy. He made a bad choice on the information he was given. And they kept saying, well, you know, that's not helping us. And we went there. And,
I thought Leader was a medic.
no, Leader's a intelligence guy. He knows how to get Antifa information. He lives in the bluest part of Madison, so you know, and you know, flying a red flag. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And just so I'm gonna.
Zach had a problem with that.
Zach had a bad problem with it, as did a couple other ones,
Yeah.
and we had a falling out over that.
Okay.
And I calmed it back down, and we all went out to eat that Friday, and we talked. Listen, you know what? Give him a chance, give Leader a chance, and everybody decided to. But you know, that's where we had our differences at. Is that I stuck up for somebody that, in all reality, now I shouldn't have stuck up for him. But
Well,
you know, I don't.
making the best decision you had
At the
with
time,
the information
that's
you had
what I had.
at the time.
And it's just.
Cut you off, sorry.
But I really think if you talk to him, he would be like, you know, I mean, and again, put a plug in for me. Hey, our Michigan people came up with this picture, blah, blah, blah. He'll be like, shit.
Yeah.
You know, he'll be one of them ones that'll be like, what do I need to do?
So let's talk about that, because I actually don't know where that came from. And there was a photographer out there documenting stuff, right? Wasn't one of the Zachs out there like recording stuff? And wasn't Jenny recording stuff? And like everybody and their brother was recording stuff.
I'm sure you guys got like 40 recordings.
Right.
Yeah, there was. Jenny was taking pictures until she was asked not to by somebody. I don't know who that was, but I know Dan had a few photos. One of the Zachs, the other Zach, might have took this.
Is that Esman? Is that his name?
Esman, yeah, Esman, yeah.
So let me ask you this. I need to find out who took that and get the original copy, not the copy that became floating around. What's your relationship with it? Did anybody gather all these together and put something, like take the roster and collect all the videos?
See, I thought that there was a sign sheet. I try to make that at all those things just because man always asks me, do you remember all the names? I'm like, no. You know?
Right.
I'm like, but
Yeah.
this is what I got for a sign sheet. Everybody didn't sign it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But,
Back to Hank's question there. Tell us about it. What kind of dude?
Squirrely, he might. Do we know who this is?
Yeah, that's Gunny.
Oh, that's Ty. Never mind. That's Ty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do we know that?
Those
I'm trying to
are,
look for his shirt.
those are his glasses on the table.
Oh,
Yep.
that's why you guys are FBI guys. That'll do it. Trying to think who this is. A band.
Swirly. What kind of swirly?
Is he a terrorist or a patriot?
He's a weakling.
For
In what way?
And anyway, I mean, if you sweat him, he's gonna break. I mean, just, and I don't mean sweat him hard either. If you just sweat him a little bit, he's gonna break. As I believe, him being a patriot, he'll still just do the right thing. He'll just say the right thing.
Yeah.
I think he'll just do what's right.
yeah.
But Esmond, I think, is who's ever going to butter the bread,
Right.
But if you told him, hey, we know you took some pictures out there and we want to see them.
Right.
You sound like you think the other Zach is a little more of a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He's stand up, but he's real. He thinks, honestly, that's why we fell out a little bit. He thinks real constitutional. What's right's right, what's wrong's wrong. He doesn't like that gray fucking matter shit. He knows he's going to look at this and be like, I was wrong.
Yeah.
What do you need? I really think that'll be his. I think that'll be his attitude.
Yeah.
Let's go down the line a little bit of the politics, right? So, you guys consider yourself constitutionalists in the Wisconsin Patriots Group.
Correct.
So the Watchmen are libertarians. So the media is portraying them as right-wing extremists, but they're clearly not.
No, I mean look at Concerta.
Yeah.
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 Clearly.
Yeah.
Right.
Libertarians.
Okay.
Can we talk a little bit about just the ideological
makeup?
the differences between what was going on, like with the constitutional side more in the Wisconsin group versus the what was happening in Michigan?
I think everybody has a sense, to a degree, any group of people, and it's probably the shortcoming of the whole militia movement. They have that bravado.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do this if this has to be done, saying it.
Yeah.
Then you've got your people that don't give a shit about harming somebody.
Right.
And want to take that plunge.
Yeah.
And they don't care what they have to do to it.
Right.
And then you've got your people that want to do good things, but want to placate. I want you guys to think, I'm down with you, you know, but
They still want
I
to
don't think you could pay either one of those acts to go harm anybody. I mean, not without something
Right.
harming them. You know what I
Right.
mean? I don't
Yeah.
think. Honestly, I just don't think that. I think that's where you talk about leverage. I think that's where your leverage with them is, because they're not terrorists.
Right.
They don't have that mentality.
Right.
Right.
They just don't have it.
Right. And that seems to be, to camp on the point for a minute, you know, the whole, as far as the, you know, law enforcement is concerned, relationship with the militia, by and large, everybody, not necessarily on board, but it's not a problem. Like, the militia's problem seems to be that it can attract some of these types of guys.
And that's why it needs a lot of people on it that ain't afraid to come where you guys are.
That's
right.
You just don't, you know?
Right.
That's it.
Well, and that's where, like, we understand that a guy like Higgins, right, is not going to be a guy who's going to be out looking, right?
We understand Higgins is not Croft.
No, but
We're not-
you know,
we're
you
not
said he
treating
made a
that.
statement to where he could get
Yeah.
her.
Schedules.
Dude, why do you say that? You know, I mean, and I'm sorry, you know, I mean that there's these lines, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And sometimes I teeter on, you know, but I'm not going across it. It's not who I am, what I want. It's not what I want to portray. I don't mind being here if it helps me stay leveraged with them.
Sure.
I don't mind that at all.
Sure.
But you know, I'm not going to say, hey, you know, you want me to go get this information for you to harm somebody.
Right.
It just there's that line.
Yep.
Yep.
You know, and it really bothers me that Brian said that. But again, he can no longer say I was there for a different reason.
Well, let's put it this way: he's trying to portray that he was there
For pedophile
for
ideas.
pedophile stuff.
And when in the beginning, he's about that. He is
Yeah.
about going after some shit like that.
Sure.
Yeah.
But after that ride, there's no doubt about who had what planned for what reason.
Yep.
And you know, and now I'm sorry. You know. I mean, I've been sticking up for him and really being really pissed about a lot of shit. And I didn't know that he had made that statement though. And I didn't. And that's a game changer for me. It just really is. Like I said, I do different things, but if I say something stupid, I make sure it's recorded so that you know
Yeah.
it can't come back and bite me. And that's one thing I learned from Matt. He goes, dude, anytime you think, like I didn't know that conversation with Barry was going to go there.
Yeah.
But he was feeling awful Barry that day. So
Right.
something good's going
Right.
to come out of this. Let me go
Right.
click this on, you know. So I did, you know, and I make sure if I'm in a conversation like that I'm recorded.
So when Higgins is coming to Michigan, what does he think he's coming to Michigan for?
One, an FTX, just a JTX, actually, a joint training exercise. And honestly, because I think I'm the only one out of Wisconsin that knew they were planning some garbage shit because I talked to Barry and Adam and everybody there, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I think that everybody there, Gary, Mike Rogers, his girlfriend, Brian, we're going there because they have an objective, an activity, an event to put things into practice. Not that it's against Whitmer. He doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He really doesn't know that.
Yeah.
Because to tell you the truth, I'm not 100% sure at that time. I just know they're talking about it. You know.
Okay.
Right.
So he knows that they're actually going there. They're going to talk about an activity, an event. He didn't go there knowing it was going to be anything illegal to start with. But again, he went on that ride.
I think our question would be when, in your opinion, or maybe you know for sure, when did he know, like this thing that's going to happen on this ride? When did he know that was happening and that it was about the governor?
Right as we left,
Okay.
In the Walmart parking lot?
where we were going. Was it Walmart?
You guys were originally at the
At
hotel.
the hotel.
Yep.
I think it was there was another car that met us at a store. I don't know what kind of store it was.
Yeah. Let's dive into your motivations, right? So there's motivations. I understand motivations of having guilt, of dragging Higgins into it, or you feeling that you played some role and now he's wrapped up into something, right? I understand that concept.
There is some of that, but
I understand the concept of Dan, of being like, who, this guy's fishy, right? I understand the natural inclination of curiosity and survival mode, right, of that. I understand the inclination of ambition, right, of like, hey, leadership. You got to fill the role, right? Cards are off the table. The question becomes, like, what's your motivations for some of these things that happen, right? Like calling Dan and saying, throw evidence in the lake, right? Like, what is your driving motivation for that?
Honestly, I think it was more self-serving. I wanted to seem like somebody I could, you know, if he was still involved, if he wasn't a good player, it would come out and I could say, hey, you know, dude said he still got this. In fact, I said that he said he still had this to Matt. But Matt never obviously knew what was going on, and he just didn't say anything, which is, you know, now I understand why.
You didn't know who he was at that time.
No, I just
and
everything was just really weird. You know?
Yeah.
It was weird, you know. And Jenny and me were talking, and Jenny was on the phone too. I don't know if you got that too.
Yep.
So, and she, you know, we were talking. She said, you know, we told you not to take that weapon. I think she even said that on the phone. So, and then I think we were. I kind of just didn't think and said just throw it, and you know.
So then Jenny's talking about encryption, right? She's talking about encrypt the rosters, encrypt.
I think she was. I think she did. I think she was talking about encrypted chat rooms.
Okay.
And that's what the conversation. What about rosters? It was encrypted chat rooms and that where you change the word means the list letter in that word. It's encrypted, but it's some type of symbolism with that.
Like a cipher type?
Ciphering, yeah.
Okay.
She was talking about that. Now they had all that. And in the encrypted chat rooms is where, you know, they got themselves in trouble at, and there was at least it showed who was really in the group, and I don't think too much more.
So,
we talked the video, dash cam video, right?
yeah. So what? We understand that you've called a bunch of people and told them that Higgins was on a pedophile hunt and that you thought it was about pedophiles, right?
I did. I was trying to, but I didn't know he made that. I would have never stuck up for him if I'd known he made that statement. I just wouldn't have.
No, we get it.
I shouldn't have said nothing in the first place, but I was trying to help him, and I was.
And that's right. Those motivations are pretty clear to us. That makes sense.
We understand that.
The fact of the matter now becomes what those now are exculpatory statements, right? Like if those are true, then they're going to be used by Higgins' defense, right? Like, so the question becomes, number one, are they true?
No, not now. I mean, not after. Once that ride was there, he knew what that ride was.
Yeah.
He's not, you know, he's a grown man. He makes
So
other choices.
when you say those, when you're having those conversations well after the fact, right? And
I
you're
lied
saying-
to somebody else saying,
Right.
somebody not involved. I mean, somebody else
Right.
not involved, and I
Yeah.
said, you know, no, he thought this, and that's what it was, and I lied, and I said that because I was angry that he was in the middle of that,
Right.
you know, and I didn't. But again, now
So
I'm looking at different things, going, wow, dude, you know, why'd you put yourself in the middle of that by, you know, saying you would? Why would you say you would get her
Yeah.
itinerary, dude? I mean, now you're planning. You're part of it.
Yep.
You know. And
So, I think what Hank's getting to here, it takes a lot of honesty to admit that you lied. And we really appreciate that. I mean, I know that that's a hard thing to do, right? At the same time, that's now something that is going to need to be resolved, probably, you know, by some of the lawyers.
correct, yeah. So the question, yeah. There's a few different like levels and things of aspects. Like, so another one, right, is you call Kawasaki and you told Kawasaki that nothing illegal happened in the car. and we don't have a recording from you in the car, right? So now your word is going to matter for the case, right? We didn't plan it, right? Like, that's you putting yourself into it, right?
Yeah, but we do have a recording of that.
It's your word. It's
Right.
what matters.
So what happens, right, is you're correct. There's recordings, right? But recordings, I'll tell you this, are not perfect, right? They capture, people sit on them, they right? And it becomes,
In
right?
cars, there's road noise and stuff, so sometimes it's harder to hear.
And then the question becomes, right, who do you trust, right? Is this guy a bad guy? Is this guy a good guy? Is this a setup? Is this a, right? I mean, if you have people you trust and you establish as witnesses, right? So if we say, hey, we have an undercover and we have a source and they're witnesses, and the defense says, well, no big deal, we've got our witnesses too. We've got Roby here, and he was there as well. And all it takes is one juror, right? So if the jury says, well, look, there's a guy who was there and he says nothing illegal happened and it was a pedophile hunt, and there's a guy who said, well, that's enough right there for reasonable doubt, right? Now, even if, we can make the case and show the recording, at the end of the day, the jury's not going to listen to 30 hours of recording, right? And say that, yeah, you know what, in hour 27, I did hear that, right? They're going to go with who they trust and who is established. Like, at the end of the day, witnesses matter. Recordings prove what the witnesses said, but nobody listens to them, right? Like, we listen to them to make sure the witness is credible, right? It's kind of like a lie detector test, right? The lie detector test, nobody's getting into it, but it allows you to know the truth. So, like right now, Kawasaki could be a witness for the defense. He could be, and you, right? And we've got recordings between you and Kawasaki in detail, and I'm going to tell you why. You told Kawasaki that you've got evidence all around your house where you've got things on your whiteboard and you're reading off the complaint line by line with all your notes.
That was on that group Zoom, or not Zoom, but YouTube thing though. I was reading. I was sitting at a table like this reading it.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. I was aware of a phone call to Kawasaki when you were pleading your case to him individually. I have heard of the Zoom calls.
No, it wasn't a Zoom call. It was a YouTube meeting with Jeremy Dieter, Thomas Leager, Phillips, CM Phillips.
Okay.
Oh, he's the Missouri guy?
Yeah.
He was in Peoples, right?
He was in both.
Both.
Yeah.
Dieter, Phillips, who was the other one?
Leager,
Oh, yeah.
and there was somebody else too. Oh, Henrik.
I thought he disappeared.
Yeah.
He's
Not
back.
that far.
Yeah, he didn't go too far.
All right. So,
And that was a YouTube
What-
off of Thomas Leager's Free Man report
Okay.
when did that occur?
a couple weeks ago.
In November.
Yeah, it was.
Are those guys like Dieter, Phillips, Leager, Hennon? Are they on the inner circle of Croft?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think I gave you Hennon and McDonald. Oh, McDonald was on there too.
Okay. Was Jenny on there?
No, she was on the phone, but she couldn't get on the YouTube.
She was trying, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Because the report had they went back to the Dublin. It was about the Dublin meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were discussing Dublin.
And that it all came out that it wasn't me that recorded the Dublin meeting.
Yeah. And who did they decide it was?
They didn't. Well, there was two people that left early, two young people.
Was Kawasaki on there too?
I don't know if he was.
Okay. Without getting too far into the weeds, I mean, basically, right, your misstep is that you don't realize that we have this huge funnel of information, right? And it's coming in all the time on all this type of stuff.
But like I said, that was just a conversation piece. That was
right.
There wasn't nothing physical there. I didn't have a Ruger or whatever the other one was.
Right.
So on October 7th, when you came out of the pizza shop with Brian, and there were agents there, were you armed, and was there a gun in your car at that
No, no.
Okay.
I was just making it sound like, we didn't know what to do. Actually, what I said is we didn't know what to do. We didn't know if there were agents or what was going on, and I had a pizza box, and, well, no, we didn't.
So
I don't even know if Brian had a gun on him.
So perception-wise, right, let me just kind of paint the picture so you see how...
They searched me, so they know I didn't have a gun on me.
I think you had said it was in your car at one period in time.
Oh.
But, so just perception-wise, right? And so you understand our side of the table here.
Very much so. Now I'm seeing a little clearer. I'm like,
right. So what happens, right?
Yes.
So the concept, like if we're ticking off what it appears to be happening, right? We tick off obstruction of justice, right? Looks like Steve's trying to destroy evidence. Looks like Steve's a felon in possession, right? Looks like he's going around these things, right? Looks like he's doing a straw purchase for his wife, transferring it over. Looks like he's possessing and controlling a 50 cal, right? Looks like he's got a Browning and a Taurus, right? In fact, in those conversations, as we look to him, at the end of the day, right, our question becomes, well, wait a sec. How many illegal acts are going on here? How many times does he get the free pass, right? And then wait a sec, is he playing us the entire way because he's really going to backdoor us because we're hearing what he's telling, Kawasaki and right? That becomes the question, right? So do you? And that's just.
I do. I see a little clarity why you have to ask me.
Okay.
I get it.
It introduced doubt on some level.
Okay.
But
no, and I get it looking at it like that. I get it looking at it like that. I didn't look at it like that. I don't. I'm one of the boys. I'm not supposed to be a Cub Scout. I'm supposed to be, but again, I have to be more clarity with what I'm dealing with other people. So.
Right. So let's dial into, and I would expect there to be. What I'd like to get into is probably what I view is maybe your worst misstep, right? Which is as you were trying to kind of cover your ass with the Higgins thing, right? So Higgins wasn't picked up initially. You were in survival mode. What did you and Higgins talk about as far as encrypting dash cam, encrypting the stuff, and getting rid of what?
He said it was encrypted already. He already said it. He goes, I don't know if they'll be able to crack my stuff.
Okay.
But he said all his stuff was encrypted.
Gotcha.
And we didn't talk about it. He just said that that's how it was. And I said, he goes, well, they can get my dash cam. I'm like, well, that itself is what I told him. I said, wasn't that, you were... I told him, I said, you were, filming an area, unless they know specifically what it was. It really.
Let me ask you this.
He point blank then said, well, it's encrypted. I don't know if they can get it.
Let me ask you this. Is his entire defense on going on a pedophile hunt, would that be based on a conversation that you and him had where, you're saying, well, you guys were just on a pedophile hunt, right? Basically, does he believe that he's been prepped by you and he's supposed to say that?
No. When he came to my house at the next day or the day, I think it was the next day after you guys were at his house. We talked about the dash cam, and he said that he wasn't sure whether they could get it because he went back to some download at his house or something that he had at his house.
Yep.
And he said, well, I wouldn't have went. He said I wouldn't have went on that had I known that's what it was. I don't know if he was recording that. That's why.
Okay.
I don't know. And he said, well, I thought we were going to look at pedophile addresses. And I said, my reply to that was, it wasn't use that as your defense. It wasn't nothing like that. It was, if that's really what you thought. It was something, if that's what you thought, then, but I didn't. I don't think.
I just want to be 100% sure.
I don't think there's anything else said about it, that part of it, other than, I can't go to jail, I'll just kill myself type shit.
Wait, he said that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's pretty important, right? Yeah. I mean, no matter what, we don't want him to kill himself,
no,
right?
That's what I was very... when I was angry the most, it was because of that, the sorrowness of him with that.
Sure.
And then I find out he's,
Yeah.
For future reference, if you ever hear that, please that's the opportunity to tell us, because we don't want anybody to.
Well, no, and I talked to him in depth, but I said, listen to this, and no matter what happens, I said, if they use it, and I did say, if they use the cam against you, your involvement was minimal. You're not looking at life like everybody else is. And I didn't know. I don't know. I was just trying to talk to him.
It's actually correct. It's technically correct.
I just said, and I think I got him off the ledge because he was in a lot better shape when he left than when he got there, and he was with his roommate or whoever she is.
So do you understand then how, trying to not get a guy to kill himself and protecting him, that's different than obstructing because he's your friend and you believe that you wanted him to continue on and find the intel on the governor's address.
A half hour of that conversation, I was like, "Wait, dude, this is cool. That's cool. Everything, He's like, I can't do it. And that girl that was with him said, he can't do it. He's depressed. He's talking about killing himself. And that was from his roommate too. She was with him.
I don't know if you guys have anything else. I was going to kind of zoom out and do some big picture stuff.
I'm good.
Yep.
So, we had the three options, right? Well, let's forecast what you want, where we want, where we're going, right? And let's be realistic, right? Because I think we have a little bit of a say in it. That option one, where you're out of the mix, right? So, option one, you being out of the mix means out of testimony, not on the witness list, means U.S. attorneys leave evidence on the table, right? Good evidence with Croft describing what he's going to do, right? There's a ton of evidence, right? Maybe it's not needed. Maybe that's a question for them. Option two, where you're a star witness, right, provides the option where you can do it two ways under that option. Number one is you can come reluctantly, right, where somebody subpoenas you and you're like, I don't got a choice, right?
I don't have a problem doing it. I don't like people like that. I don't.
Option two, right, is where you come in as the hero, right? You come in and fulfill that role that Kawasaki already thinks you are, which is as the star witness, right?
It is what it is.
Okay. And then option three on the defense witness side, right? So to me, what we need to provide direction to the U.S. attorneys and get our arms around is
you couldn't pay me to defend them if you want to know. From the bottom of my heart till my breath.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. If I defended them, it would still come out, and I don't really have any intention of doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. I can't defend that. I can't defend it.
Sure.
I mean, I can't even defend Brian with what he said.
Sure. Okay.
I just can't, dude.
Right.
So, we still need to, we want you to be prepared that they could try to still do that, and they bring you up and they ask you questions that are slanted in a way to make you uncomfortable and, all sorts of stuff. Like, that can all happen. And then there's not much we can do, really, outside of trying to get ahead of it.
And these decisions will be made above our pay grade, right? So at the end of the day, our job, right, when we're coming in here, was to get to the truth and to basically throw everything we knew aside, right, and try to start with a new baseline and make sure we're on the same page with you and we know the facts for everything, right? So I guess the toughest question that you'll probably have to face, right, is you've told us a bunch of things today here. we know, and you've told us that you've lied. How do we know you're being truthful now? Right? Like, what's your pitch? And this is a pitch to the prosecutors and everybody, right? Like,
I hear you. I'm just saying I think my motivation, like I said, where Dan was concerned was I didn't know, and where Kawasaki was concerned, I just try and survive. I really did. I wanted that label off of me as whatever situation I could get it off of me in.
okay.
I just did.
Right.
I didn't want to be labeled that and then have people at my door. I didn't. But now it's going to be evident. I mean, you're not going to get around it. I'm just not. To some point, if 2 or 3 is an option anyway.
So another way to say the question. Again, this is because we're going to have to answer the question, not because we don't believe it. But why do we believe you today in this conversation?
Honestly, because I think that I've shown when asked to do what to do. I've delivered on what I said, and I've done it wholeheartedly and honestly. A conversation with somebody else with my motivation being my own to lie about, to either, like for Brian, even when I lied for him, to somebody not a part of it, but still I lied to somebody because I really was trying to preserve him. I was trying to preserve him. And I'm just like, why? And now I'm looking at like, he's no different than the people, but he's no different than the people that were all in the. If he was in more of the planning, what would he have done? Mm-hmm. He was only in it for 2 minutes and was already going, I can get.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, right? But I mean, Dan was part of the case, and when you reached out, you're trying to influence him, right? I mean, you did a lot for Brian without being asked, and
I don't think I tried to influence Dan as much as I wanted the information from him.
Okay.
I really wanted to know. I wanted to know that, and honestly, he gave it away to me when he, look, we need you to run this, and I need you guys got guys right, and you can do it. I knew that was too many questions, know. But again, me and Jenny talked a little bit, obviously, that, and then we talked back to him. I don't know if it was the next day or the next morning or something. And same questions. Well, I need their names, and I was like, and I kind of knew then, I just wasn't. I wasn't going to call them out on it because it wasn't my place to call them out on it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It wasn't. Somebody called me out on it. It is what it is. Unless you know why what I believe, then you're not going to understand what the fuck happened anyway.
Right.
He believed what he believed. You know what I mean? I believe what I believe, and I don't think we're so far a page. But again, I was directed not to do that, and I did it.
Right. And whether it's correct me if I'm wrong, so let's talk a little bit about that. You're told not to do it, and you do it, right? It's kind of like we're both parents, like, do you take it seriously? Or at the end of the day, right, you're told by somebody to do something, and you have to, you're going to protect yourself in any, there's just motivations, and you're going to take some matters into your own hands. You're not being completely babysat by the FBI.
No, and I think I really could have. I'm not going to blame it on nobody else. When it's all said and done, I'm the one that was on the call. But I mean, I just shouldn't have. I wasn't influenced because nobody influences me. I'm my own man. I make a mistake. It's my mistake. I own it. And me and Jenny just were in a conversation, and I'm like, well, let's just call him back,
Yep.
And should have never happened. But, again, it's...
So, right now, the worst thing you could do later today would be call Jenny,
and say that was...
Call Kawasaki, call anybody, right? And let this... I know this is going to just rot in your head for a while, right? I think this today is going to be... we want it to be a shot across the bow, right? This is serious. This is how you the perception is, right? Like putting your toe across that line, right? Like, you could be charged with FIP. You could be charged with obstruction, right? Like, those lines, you're so close that it's not, like, don't do anything, right? Like, that is not... Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense now when I look back to when he said it. It's just, I hear you. I don't have any... I don't need to know anymore now. I know what I need to know.
Yeah.
And I know that it's going to probably come down to separation as it is. So
What do you mean?
Me from them anyway. From the people.
Okay.
Jenny's going to call. It's going to happen, but I don't. There's still things that I just can't say anything anymore. Mm-hmm. It'd be like it's just not. It's not good for me now.
Right.
It's just not good for me to say anything.
Right. Well, I'm going to kind of tell you, I guess, where you can go with that, and let's talk about it. And so you're not going to be happy with us, right? I mean, you picked up on this, but we're taking measures, and we are searching your house right now. I mean, you probably figured that out.
It's irrelevant. Like I said, this. As long as my kids ain't freaked out, I really don't. Just respectfully.
Hopefully it is. Just so you're aware, right? So right now, right, our assumption is you're options 1 or 2, right? Yeah. You made it clear you're not option 3. So that means you're a government witness, right? That means anybody reaches out to you, like, the house is coming down, right? Like, that's not a thing, they don't threaten you, right? Like, it's a serious thing. So,
let's be a little bit more clear on that. If somebody threatens you or your family about this, we will arrest them so fast they won't have any just happen.
Again, and that's where I'm at. I just want to make, like I said, I'm not really worried about none of these. I mean, I'm pretty fluent with a bow and a knife, so I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you the truth. I'm as good with a bow as people are with a gun.
Sure.
Right? You know what I mean? And I made myself that way because I had
right.
I mean, if someone just
from their group of people,
because these guys are in Delaware, right? Guess what?
Yes.
We've got people to call right now. Like, we know where they live. If we need to do something right now, we can make it happen.
Well, I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. And
Exactly.
So the question from here for the U.S. attorneys is, right, like, we're going to go describe this scenario to them. And I'm fairly confident they're going to process the information. And the question they're going to have is the same one I asked you, which is how do we trust him now? So the question is, would you be willing to sit down with them, go over things in detail, so they might want to personally talk to you to assess you as a witness or to keep you off? Or they might say, polygraph. I need something, concrete to go on, right? There's a story here, he told you a story. I guess, would you be willing to do either one of those?
I'm not opposed to either one of them, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure that, and this is from my perspective. I've kind of been, agreeable. I'm not thrilled about how shit happened.
You've been very agreeable.
I see a point to cover some gray ground. I see a point for it. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But it's done. It's done. If a conversation that I had with somebody outside the realm of the investigation, which with Kawasaki or with McDonald or, I guess the only one that I would even consider talking about that is the one with Dan. It's because, like you said, that was stupid. I should not. I was freewaying a call, trying to act cool, the whole 9 yards. But I think the taped conversations of not me talking, of them talking, that I've provided and that I'll testify to, I'm not seeing where that won't be sufficient. But at the same time, I'm not closed-minded to, I'm not going to Michigan.
We can do conference calls or something, video calls. We can do all that kind of stuff. And a lot of times, like, these interactions with a prosecutor, like, they're also trying to get the feel for, how they would be able to ask you questions.
Utilize me to the best.
Right. So it's more than just, do we believe him or not, and or are we questioning the evidence or anything else? It's is this the best fit for the case that we're trying to make, and they're trying to get a feel for all that. Sometimes that's a thing.
At the end of the day, right, a lot of these guys are going to make their own decisions, right? Who's going to go to trial? Is Fox going to go to trial? Is Croft going to go to trial?
Are they going to make a deal? Or they
right, yeah. So,
and
like, at the end of the day, like, the way it looks right now is...
they can't wait to roll on each other.
Yeah, they can't wait, and a few people probably are going to be dumb enough to go to trial, right? That's just how it is.
And some of them I don't have anything to do with. I just don't.
Right.
I don't have nothing to do with any of the other guys.
Joe, no big deal, right? You never really talked to him.
Even Ty and all them, I mean, just... I don't know what went on in them chat rooms or their private conversations or the vacuum cleaner place. Or
Right. You weren't there.
I wasn't there. Don't have any knowledge of it. Actually, didn't even know they were having the meeting.
Right. Yeah.
But, so that's... I mean, I see that... Yeah, just...
Croft and Fox are probably the biggest, your strongest connection as far as the guys that might try to go to trial. So,
bearing that in mind now, they told you what's there, that's what they're going to find.
Yep.
Am I in any jeopardy for anything now? And I want an honest answer.
Yeah, well, number one, I mean, depending on what they find, right? Like, assuming everything is truthful, right? To me, it doesn't seem like you're in jeopardy, right? The reason I really want to qualify that is because it seems to me like the entire way, like there's been minimizations or there's been something, right? Like, I think you've been pretty forward with us today. Like, as of me, Hank, and Jayson knowing you, for the first time, everything's been on the table, right? And that was our intention.
Yeah.
So the question be, is there anything else that is going to come out that we don't want any surprises, right? Like, out of the house.
I don't think that's what you've asked me. I mean, no, nothing from the house. There's nothing illegal going on.
Phone.
No.
Okay.
The phone's not going to have nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, the
pictures of everything you've asked about. That's it. There's no side shit.
I think that's really the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Because your question is an honest question. Are you in jeopardy? We can say, based on what we know right this second, things seem pretty good.
I mean, we didn't have...
I get it, especially if it's going to go to a trial. I need the P's and Q's, and I don't really have any intentions of talking to anybody. If Jenny calls me, I'll talk to her, obviously. But I'm not going to. And now I can actually say, the FBI tore my house apart, and,
Yeah,
so,
throw us under the bus. We can be the bad guys.
Well, I'm saying, you guys drive the bus, it's okay.
So we didn't have enough for an arrest warrant for you, right? We have enough for a search warrant, but not enough for an arrest warrant.
Does she have the search warrant?
Yeah, I mean, she will when they leave.
Yes.
They always present it. And
Yes, there's going to be
It comes with the receipt.
printed copy there. Absolutely.
And what you're going to get is the face signed by the judge. You're not going to get the affidavit with everything we know, right? That's why, moving forward, right? I guess I really want to, I guess the way I envision is you go back home, you simmer on things, you want to talk to people, you're a social guy, and it happened before. It's happened. When you look for future results, you look at past performance, right? So for me, right, if Corey called me next week and said, you know what?
Dude called 20 people.
Dude called 20 people. Called Jenny. I'd be like, yeah, well, not surprised, right? So, but to what that does, right? The line in the sand is, right, now you know obstruction could be on the table. You know it, right? So anything you do now is an overt act against the line in the sand, right? So which is fine. You're a big boy, right? You'll be able to...
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to cause any problems for you guys, for sure. I want this to... I mean, I was in this for the reason to be in this, what I mean? But, at the same time my life goes on, I'm not going to... I see it as how it is what it is, and we'll deal with it as it comes down the line. Now, from the other side of the coin, not you guys, but from if it goes 2 or 3 or whatever it is, we'll deal with it when it comes. You know what I mean? But I'm certainly going to hold my foot on the ideal that you guys are going to make sure if me and my family have to go somewhere, I'm not asking for witness protection, any of that, but if we need to move or do something, that's going to be provided. I'm not going to put my kids in jeopardy, you know, and I'm not going to go out and go back to the old Steve that ran with the Outlaws and do shit to make that available. I mean, I expect it to come with the territory of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, we'll talk about, for us, I mean, if we had to do a relocation payment or something, right, anything needs to get approved through the U.S. Attorney's Office. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship with these guys, right? These guys are the ones who have to validate and justify and protect you, right? So,
it emphasizes just more moving forward. You know, your choices moving forward will influence all of those things.
I really don't have any desire to contact you. I'm kind of sick to my stomach about the whole thing to start with. You know, I'm just like, but you know, procedure's procedure, so I get it. But you know, it's time to get this whole chapter done and go on down the road.
Yeah.
And hopefully good stuff comes out of it. For, you know, for
absolutely.
Done,
and
mixed blessing. Right?
This is
exactly. I mean, and honestly, you know, whether I agree with her politics or not, I'm glad nothing happened to her.
Yeah.
You know, I just am.
Exactly.
You know, it's still the governor of a state. It's still the president.
It's a big deal.
That's who it is. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And let's not like hide the ball. Like this case as a whole is one of the, if not the largest by volume, a number of people arrested, terrorism cases that the U.S. government has had to deal with in the United States, and you know, on the home shores. Like it does this is outside of what is normal.
This is much bigger than I thought it was. Too.
It's way bigger than everybody thought it was going to be, and that just ramps up the stakes, and you know, everything gets more intensified, and all of those things.